Wait, remember Timon and Pumbaa? Well, who doesn't? They are iconic characters from the Lion King films, but specifically I'm talking about their own TV show spin-off titled after them, Timon and Pumbaa. The name of the show is spot on. That is who they are. Now, they were popular enough to have their own spin-off show, as well as a pseudo-sequel, prequel, remix of the film The Lion King, titled The Lion King 1.5, which sees the events of the first movie, but from the perspective of Timon and Pumbaa the whole time, including their own set of personal storylines, all with a mystery science theater fourth wall breaking attitude, and I just love it. But do I love this show? I like these characters a lot, but will these new sets of globetrotting adventures give me the same energy and dynamic duo connection I get from the movies? I remember enjoying it when I was younger, so let's dig into what this show was, how it came to be, what happened to it as I relive my time watching it.
Timon, what are you doing?
I'm fast forwarding to the part where we come in.
Hakuna Matata.
Here we go.
Timon and Pumbaa, or more correctly, the Lion King's Timon and Pumbaa, followed around these two titular characters on their own journeys separate from the movies. They themselves followed one simple message and their own personal philosophy. Hakuna Matata. It means no worries, well, at least for the rest of your days. But I'm sure you already knew that. It's also the song used for the theme song of the show, so kudos for the most obvious smart marketing aspect of this whole show. The show itself was mainly episodic, a fact that the less than consistent timeline the series has heavily utilized, with episodes ranging and flipping between occurring after the events of the first movie, during the events of the first movie, or even stepping earlier in time for events prior to the events of the first movie. Long story short, these stories can take place at any point in the Lion King timeline. Throughout these adventures, Timon Berkowitz and Pumbaa Smith, yes, those are their actual last names, would travel all around the globe, going everywhere from the UK to Italy to even Canada. That's unheard of, as well as many more places, all the while having misadventures with the animals that live in the locations they visit. The style of the adventures, though, played out with a more stereotypical buddy cop dynamic, delving deeper into the tighter nuances of Timon and Pumbaa's relationship than we see from the original film. There was also a strong emphasis on slapstick, referencing their comedic stylings from the film, but turning it up a bit more here. In fact, Timon and Pumbaa keep a lot of their base personalities that we already know and love, Pumbaa being the loyal and caring type, and Timon being the wisecracking and lazier type. Only main differences now are that they are expanded upon a lot more in the series as we get to see them in more over-the-top various wacky situations. Interestingly enough, despite the name of the show, a few episodes were not focused exclusively on those two, but rather seeing episodes that focused on or heavily featured secondary characters, like some familiar faces making returns from the movie, like Rafiki, the Hyena Trio, Zazu, and even Simba. But this isn't just a callback and references show. There are plenty of new characters added in to spice up the adventures and help flesh out the places Timon and Pumbaa visit. Characters like Speedy, a talking snail that rather than slurp up like the usual grubs they eat, they befriend. Fred, a meerkat friend from Timon's childhood who loves to prank the pair often. And Toucan Dan, a criminal con artist mastermind who often pulls one over on Timon and Pumbaa with his various schemes. Most notably, however, is the addition of Quint, the first human to make an appearance in any Lion King media. Quint was kind of like the antagonist jack of all trades, switching up between the roles he plays and disguises he uses episode to episode, but still always in a position that would cause issues and problems for Timon and Pumbaa. What is nice is that for Pumbaa, his original voice actor Ernie Sabella returns to voice him. Sadly, Nathan Lane doesn't reprise his role as Timon. Well, he does for a bit of the first season along with Quentin Flynn, but Kevin Shawn replaces them for the other seasons of the show and does a fantastic job as a great replacement for the series. Funny, as Kevin has replaced Nathan Lane in other properties as someone who sounds very similar, like in the Stuart Little franchise, where Nathan Lane voiced Snowball in the first two movies, but not in the third. You see, the third one, he was voiced by Kevin. But let's now take a look into how this series came to be in general.
You are my true bestest best friend.
So where's my present?
Hakuna Matata. Timon and Pumbaa will be right back. Kick back and watch some more Timon and Pumbaa.
January 4th, 1995. A little less than a year after the runaway success of The Lion King in theaters for Disney, Timon and Pumbaa was announced as a spin-off television series. The then president of Disney Animation, Gary Crizel, felt that Timon and Pumbaa had the greatest potential to be a powerful, iconic comedy team, and specifically wanted to increase more media centered around just the pair. Gary here had the right idea. Bob Sganaway and Tony Craig were brought on to the series as producers in an effort to begin expanding on the personalities of Timon and Pumbaa, with the pair seeing this as vital to keep the series fresh and the show interesting. Luckily, at this point in the Lion King franchise, it was pretty open range for creative ideas. As the years followed, we would see sequels, spin-off games, the whole 9 acres. But at this point in '95, we really only had the first movie, so that canvas was blank. Bobs and Tony would later go on to be part of many other Disney TV animations, including movie spin-offs with stuff like House of Mouse, 101 Dalmatians the series, Lilo and Stitch the series, and of course, The Emperor's New School. Another familiar face, Kevin Campbell, was on board as a writer and personally would spend time with Bobs in the early days of the show's conception, making a list of countries' names and puns surrounding them to help come up with the episode ideas. From this point, these two would look into the wildlife of those countries, pick specific animals, and write an episode directly related to said animal in said country, and Timon and Pumbaa somehow interacting with them. Several months later, on September 8, 1995, Timon and Pumbaa took the spotlight as their show would officially premiere. Bobs and Tony remained on the show as producers for the show's first 2 seasons, stepping away from the project sometime around 1996 to 1997, which makes sense as this was common when other properties would start formulating and Disney wanted the right leadership and crew on board to help launch them. Here specifically with 101 Dalmatians, the series starting up and they were both producers on. Chris Bartleman and Blair Peter stepped into the role of producers for the show's 3rd and final season. These two would go on to work on such shows as Kid vs. Kat and My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, the final season of the show itself containing the bulk of the series episodes. While season 1 had 25 and season 2 had 21, season 3 would have a total of 39 episodes. That's almost as much as season 1 and 2 combined. During the 3 seasons it was on the air, Timon and Pumbaa aired on CBS, Toon Disney, and as a part of the Disney Afternoon, a 2-hour animation block that aired such shows as Gargoyles and Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. After a total of 85 episodes, Timon and Pumbaa remained on the air until September 24th, 1999. The Disney Channel played reruns of the show up until 2008, and Toon Disney played reruns up until the channel ceased to exist on February 8th, 2009. Funny enough, it had one more run in March of 2012 when Disney launched Disney Junior as its own separate channel, with only a handful of select episodes of the series being chosen to be played. But as of 2014, that show was removed altogether from Disney Junior and now resides completely on Disney Plus, which hey, that's pretty nice. But why was the show canceled overall in the first place? Was it received well or not? Was it due to the golden Disney 65 limit rule that it also forgot to enforce on so many shows for some reason and they felt the time was up? Or were there other plans down the road for Timon and Pumbaa behind the scenes?
You mind if I pause it for a second?
Sure, go ahead.
Be right back.
These two unlikely friends really know their way around the jungle.
Now back to Timon and Pumbaa, right here on Toon Disney.
Timon and Pumbaa was actually received quite positively,
Couldn't have said it better myself.
with the show receiving over 17 Annie Award nominations during its run and 3 total wins. Sadly, like I said, the show was canceled after the 3rd season with no official reason being stated, which is common. I'd chalk it up to most shows getting about 2 or 3 seasons from Disney and then ending. While it surprisingly did pass the 65 episode rule, so did many other shows, so I don't think it was directly related to that, or else episode 65 would have been its last. It could have been down to the shift in writers and producers between the 2nd and 3rd season, or due to the purchase of ABC that Disney had made, but that happened in 1996, with the show still continuing on for quite some years after that, so I'll leave those up to theories and speculations rather than a straight-up fact. Whatever the reason is, it eventually led to something that I hold dear that I briefly touched on before. In 2004, the success of Timon and Pumbaa still lingered around, and now with 2 full Lion King movies out, there was a way to continue to brand these 2 characters specifically and bring more attention to them. Here is where we saw The Lion King 1.5 come into the picture, focusing exclusively around the characters of Timon and Pumbaa prior and during the events of the first movie. I actually genuinely love this movie. As much as I love The Lion King as the great film that it is, there is just something about The Lion King 1.5 that I just enjoy so much. I still have the Dig a Tunnel song stuck in my head to this day, and every time I receive a hug, I still have the urge to say, choking, not breathing. Man, I think all I am is nostalgia. Why can't I ever just leave the past? Anyway, before I get all existential, I'll leave it at that. I just love that movie, and I greatly enjoy these two characters together. The show overall does have its issues. I mean, it even starts with a message before you start watching it on Disney Plus about certain aspects being depicted that definitely aren't great in any way. But for Timon and Pumbaa themselves, I just love their dynamic. How they get into the shenanigans they do, the way they care for each other, and the slapstick comedy that they pull off so well. And of course, how can I forget the music? There were a handful of music covers with remix lyrics for songs like Stand By Me, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, etc. It wasn't necessary to have it in there when it was there, but it was very welcome, as we know these characters specifically had a great musical rhythm thanks to the movie itself, which again, here has Hakuna Matata as its intro music theme. There was a video game that was based off of the show, technically, titled Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games, released in 1995 on the PC, with a Super Nintendo port in 1997, furthering the push for these characters that Gary really wanted. It consisted of 5 minigames, like pinball, a burping-based shooter, a hippo version of what essentially is Frogger, a slingshot-based game, and Bug Drop, which was a matching game. Bug Drop, however, was not ported to the Super Nintendo version. In more recent years, another Lion King spin-off TV series hit TV titled The Lion Guard, and while there is no inherent connection to anything Timon and Pumbaa the series about it, these characters are in that show, with Ernie Sabella and Kevin Shawn playing them again, as well as the creator Ford Riley was actually a writer on the 3rd season of Timon and Pumbaa. So just a fun little fact background connection there, which is pretty cool. Rewatching this show was definitely a fun time, albeit a fair bit has aged poorly. The concept of the show, with 2 great characters, kept my attention throughout. While not every TV series spin-off of a movie property was great, some of them out there are way better than you'd think they would be. But I do plan on covering more soon, so make sure to let me know your thoughts on Timon and Pumbaa, as well as what other TV shows spin-offs of movies you'd like to see me cover. Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Ayo, you remember the year 2000? For me, it feels both like it was yesterday and a lifetime ago all at the same time. Next year will be 22 years since the Y2K scare of then, and with that we'll be getting a movie from Disney and Pixar, one I didn't think possible we'd ever see come to fruition. Well, yeah, come to fruition. Lightyear, a film following the real adventures of Buzz Lightyear that the Buzz toy from Toy Story is based upon. It also is presumably about his time in Star Command if we follow our Buzz Lightyear related solo venture from the fateful year of 2000, aptly named Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. Now, it could go in a different direction. Sure, let's not jump to concussions here.
Conclusions.
What?
You mean conclusions.
Yeah, what did I say?
Concussions.
Oh, maybe I have one. Regardless, I have been hopeful we'd ever see a return to the actual stories of Buzz Lightyear at some point, as I have fond memories of the show that gave us a look beyond the toy and into some fun cosmic shenanigans. So for today, I wanted to dive into why you may barely remember Buzz Lightyear of Star Command and hopefully show you why I am excited to see where the new Lightyear film next year takes us. Strap in as we get ready to go intergalactic. Hit the like button for more content like this, as it helps out the video greatly, and I'll show you my vintage Digimon card collection. It's no secret in the last few years, we, as a viewing audience, have received numerous prequels we never asked for, glimpses into the backstories of predominantly secondary characters from much more successful main Disney franchises. Solo, Maleficent, Cruella, just to name a few. Whether you or I have enjoyed them or not, it probably wasn't something high on your list of wants from those franchises, and if it was, cool, I support you. Soon, like I mentioned, joining the Disney roster of one-name backstory prequels is Lightyear. That will answer all those desperate burning questions you have about who exactly is Buzz Lightyear. But unlike the aforementioned films, in this case, yeah, I asked for this one. I thought it would be impossible to ever see, but it's happening, and I am pretty excited for it. For those of us who are around in the early 2000s, we know that the Buzz Lightyear prequel already exists, that those questions have already been answered thanks to the animated show Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. It was a 2D animated Walt Disney TV series that ran from October of 2000 to September of 2001, mostly as a part of Disney's one Saturday morning programming block, a weekend cartoon block on Disney from 1997 to 2002 that included shows like Doug, Recess, and Pepper Ann. While not quite as classic as some of the other shows that debuted during this cartoon block, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command did serve as an interesting piece of world building for the Toy Story universe, with the opening sequence of the show, which featured all of Andy's toys gathering around a television set, heavily implying that it is the same Saturday morning cartoon Buzz originally came from. The show within a movie, if you will. Despite the fact that Pixar were the creators of Toy Story and thus the creators of Buzz himself, the production company had very little to do with the animated series, serving only in an occasional consulting role to Star Command's production crew, and providing the 3D animated opening sequence with all the toys. The world of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, or more accurately the universe of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, takes place in the far distant future where the Galaxy Alliance, a union of planets home to various aliens, keeps order across the universe through Star Command, an organization of space rangers who investigate threats to universal peace. Buzz, in the show, is a famous, experienced space ranger who leads a team of rookie rangers on missions across the galaxy. The show is nearly exclusively episodic, with most of the threats to peace being caused either directly or indirectly by Star Command's most wanted, evil Emperor Zurg. With the concept of Emperor Zurg being briefly alluded to in Toy Story 1 and shown in Toy Story 2, in the movies, Emperor Zurg is played as a parody of Darth Vader, with the similarities between their designs and narrative positions as space-themed antagonists being a reoccurring joke in the franchise. Cue the Buzz, I am your father scene.
You killed my father.
I am your father.
While it's easy to pick up in the movies that Zurg is a Darth Vader ripoff, here's something you may not have known through the movies, but you do learn through the show. Beyond being simply stated as evil, Emperor Zurg is also a crime boss and a warlord. What are his war crimes? I can't say for sure. I'm still waiting for my clearance to go through with Space Force so I can read the Space Geneva Convention. But he rules an empire of heavily armed robots and enslaves various alien races that he forces to work in opposition of the Galactic Alliance. So whatever these crimes are, they're probably not that good. The pilot episode of the series, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command: The Adventure Begins, is in fact a 70-minute straight-to-video movie that Disney later broke into 3 episodic parts that was made after the rest of the show was completed. What had happened was that the production team had finished the series in early 1999 and were fully ready to release it when it was deemed unwise to release the show until after Toy Story 2 had premiered to prevent any spoilers or confusion. In the extra time this created, the production team decided to make The Adventure Begins, which gave a more firm start to Buzz's origins as the leader of his rookie crew. The pilot movie also managed to secure Tim Allen, his original voice role as Buzz Lightyear, versus in the rest of the series where that part was taken over by Patrick Warburton. Hey, Zurg. In The Adventure Begins, while dealing with the apparent and recent death of his Star Command partner, Warp Dark Matter, Buzz is assigned a new partner against his wishes. His new partner is Princess Miranova, a rookie ranger and heir to the Tangean throne. Through the TV series, Princess Mira's alien abilities to phase through walls, or ghost as it is often referred to, as well as to read minds, are explored, along with her position in the crew as co-pilot and often the voice of reason. Buzz and Mira investigate the case that Warp and Buzz were working on last when they meet Booster Munchapper, a sweet, naive, and incredibly strong dinosaur-looking alien janitor on the planet Joad. Booster, after helping his hero Buzz throughout the movie, ends up enlisting in Star Command at the end of the film and joins Buzz's crew as another of his rookie rangers. Fourth and finally, the movie introduces XR, short for Experimental Ranger, a short, quick-talking robot that has a numerous amount of useful attachments built specifically to aid Buzz during his missions. An added bonus of XR is that he's a robot, and as such, after being destroyed, he can easily put himself back together again. Which is good, because he's blown up nearly once per every mission.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
By the end of the movie, Buzz has his crew and a newfound determination to beat Emperor Zurg once and for all. And with that, the adventure begins. Or began, I guess. back in 2000. The creation of the show came about when Tad Stones, Mark McCorkle, and Bob Schooley were just finishing up the production of Hercules, the animated series, when they were approached by Disney to make a Buzz Lightyear TV show on an $8 million budget. Despite the fact that this would mean that they would be working on 2 shows at the same time, finishing up their work on Hercules and starting Buzz, they agreed to Disney's offer. In the beginning, when the production of both shows overlapped the most, McCorkle and Schooley found it very difficult to balance the workload. Stones, though, was a little less involved with Hercules by this point and was able to give Buzz more focus. This made the early portion of the show's creation be heavily influenced by Stones, with a more comedic adventure vibe to the tone of the series. It dipped away from this when Schooley and McCorkle were able to more firmly commit to the project, toward a more space opera, soft science fiction tone. Years later in an interview, Stones wondered whether John Lasseter, the original creator of Toy Story, would like his original idea of the show more than what they ended up with, since he had learned that Lasseter had publicly stated years earlier that he had hated the show, despite the fact that he was one of the key figures the show was originally pitched to. Beyond the original creator of Toy Story not liking the show, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command also had difficulty acquiring a dedicated fan base amongst the general audience during its original airing for one mainly recognized reason. Since the show's first 2 seasons were finished before the show premiered, when it did air, those episodes were often out of order, in different seasons, on different channels, during different time slots. This made it hard for a real regular viewing audience to form for the show. Interestingly enough, a similar thing occurred with the airing of the Fox 2002 show Firefly, though all that supposedly was a deliberate move done by Fox to tank the show so they can greenlight another sci-fi show with a bigger name lead actor. The out-of-order airing of Buzz Lightyear felt less deliberate and more just careless. It seems less like Disney trying to tank a show that they decided they didn't like, and more that Disney has a ton of money and tends to greenlight a bunch of cartoons for 65 episode runs so they can throw them against the wall and see what sticks. Much like those sticky hand toys that you would fling around for a while until they got all gunked up by dirt and dust and lint. You know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
Those things that you would fling around that were shaped like hands.
Very descriptive.
They were like those hand clapper things, except they weren't plastic and they were stretchy and they gripped to surfaces.
Okay, now you've just lost me completely.
The things that, you know what, it doesn't matter. While Buzz Lightyear of Star Command didn't receive much praise in its time, it was genuinely a good show, at least in my opinion. I remember watching it as a kid, eyes glued to the screen to see how Buzz was going to save the day and defeat the bad guys that week. It was filled with heart and humor and a cast of fun, creative characters, and say what you will about it, but Buzz in the show was true to Buzz in the movies. He was a stickler for procedure and rules who sometimes bulldozed over those around him for his own stubbornness. He was also confident and kind and brave and everything else you'd want an intergalactic hero to be. As a big fan of sci-fi and mainly space-related adventures, the show gave me that fix of what helped propel my love for the genre growing up, visiting many unique planets, moons, and other locations that visually gave the series constant new settings. Like I mentioned before, the show hit that 65 episode limit, meaning it ran its Disney allotted course, and the final episode, if you could even watch it in order, was titled 42, which saw some interesting development in terms of that character, 42, the AI of Buzz's ship, and giving XR a nice little story arc.
Oh, don't take it so hard. We can still be
Friends! She wants to be friends!
Never mind, he's down bad. So yeah, it didn't have this big climactic ending for our Space Rangers, which ultimately leaves it on this average note as many of the other episodes would casually end on. So it probably didn't leave that lasting remembrance in your mind as a conclusion to the series.
Concussion.
Ha! You got it wrong this time. I said it right.
Concussion.
Conclusion.
Concussion.
Conclusion.
Conclusion.
Concussion. Oh, come on.
Idiot.
Rabbit season. Duck season. Fire!
The show also had a video game produced titled the same name as the show, released for nearly everything out in the year 2000, minus a home Nintendo console, instead releasing on the Game Boy Advance and was produced by Sorry, something about that word makes me sick to my stomach. The game received mixed reviews. Lightyear is set to come out next year in the summer, and I'm looking forward to seeing what direction they go in based off the teaser we've been left with since they announced it. I think Chris Evans is a good choice, even though both Tim Allen and Patrick Warburton were both the two main voices I grew up with. I understand for the non-toy version as well as the added star appeal that this was a smart move. I mean, it's Chris Evans. I'm fine with that. It will be interesting to see if any elements of the show will be referenced in Lightyear when it comes out next year, if the Galactic Alliance will still be around, if Zurg is still the galaxy's great enemy. if we will get to see the characters we've come to love like Princess Mira, Booster, and XR again, or if it will totally be a new story with new friends and foes along for the journey. No matter what direction Pixar decides to go with this new movie, either building off the old or making something completely new, as long as it has that heart, humor, and bravery of Buzz Lightyear, that Buzz Lightyear of Star Command was able to capture so well, then I can say that Buzz will be Buzz, whether as an action figure, space ranger, or galactic hero, to infinity and beyond. Now, you've heard from me, and I would enjoy hearing from you. Did you ever watch this show? Are you excited for the new Lightyear movie? Let me know all the above in the comments down below. I would love to cover more shows like this, especially some Disney-related ones, as I know I have mainly discussed Nickelodeon properties here on the channel. So if you'd like to see more of that, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to be a part of my nostalgia goof troop. We'd love to have you. Pepper Ann was an absolutely radical show. That's accurate terminology for the 90s. In this era of cartoon renaissance, the variety of stories, characters, and settings shown off gave everyone not just one, but a handful of personal favorite shows to gravitate to. But with this abundance, a lot of cartoons could easily be overlooked. That was the case for me with Pepper Ann. I personally wasn't aware of this show until the tail end of its series run. As much as I enjoyed a lot of the Disney Channel, for me, the 90s were dominated by Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network primarily. Over time, the show went from Disney's one Saturday morning's programming block to some reruns on Disney Channel and their sister channel Toon Disney, and by 2008 the show stopped being circulated. So there were some substantial rerun legs, but it got overshadowed and overlooked compared to the constant barrage of cartoons the 2000s would bring. So in retrospect, I've had this vague memory of watching the show but not retaining much, as it had been out of my consciousness for some time now. But in working on other videos for the channel, the name Pepper Ann has started creeping its way back from the recesses of my brain. I said recesses. So I truly wanted to scratch that itch and rewatch Pepper Ann. One problem though, there has been no proper way to watch it, with it no longer being on the air with those reruns and no official DVD release. Until now, as of September 8th, 2021, Disney has released the show on Disney Plus for a new generation to discover, and for the nostalgic gremlins like myself to relive a part of their childhood. So with that being said, I've spent the past several days binging the show and letting these memories wash back over me, and honestly learned a lot about this fascinating show that was a quintessential product of the 90s. Pepper Ann was a unique and quirky look at the early teen life through the lens of a preteen girl, while also making history as the first Disney animated series ever created by a woman. The next woman-created animated series from Disney would not be for another 17 years until 2015, with Darren Nefsey's Star vs. the Forces of Evil. First premiering on September 13th, 1997, Pepper Ann, like I mentioned earlier, aired as a part of Disney Channel's one Saturday morning cartoon block for 5 seasons until its final episode on November 18th, 2000. The series was created and written by Sue Rose, and at the time, advertising executive and cartoonist, and co-written by CBS News correspondent, Harvard alum, and later cooking show host Mo Rocca.
For the sake of the dog, please let me go.
The world of Pepper Ann was an episodic slice-of-life series that follows around red-headed 7th grader Pepper Ann Pearson as she navigates life at Hazelnut Middle School with a cast of friends and family backing her up through the hilarious fantasies she experiences. Now, these fantasies, which are normally driven by Pepper Ann's emotional response to a situation, were a major defining aspect of the show, with several bizarre and entertaining scenarios being played out in Pepper Ann's mind throughout an episode as her imagination ran away with her, often resulting in the source of Pepper Ann's drama. For example, in the first episode, Zitterella, when Pepper Ann develops a pimple the day before school pictures, she dreams up a world where her only future prospect is as Pimple Ann, a low-paid, hunchback, Phantom of the Opera mask-wearing brick oven pizza operator at the Pizza Pit. A quirky little detail is that after the first few episodes, at the end of the banger intro song where she would find $5 underneath her desk at school, there would start being a new gag every episode where she would find weird stuff like a mood ring and even the letter Q for quirky. Hey, that's neat.
Don't go away. Pepper Ann will be right back. Now, back to Pepper Ann.
Backing up Pepper Ann through her stressful middle school days is her best friend's Nikki Little, a fellow 7th grader who is just a bit too perfect, and the always mellow Milo Kamalani. The show had a plethora of supporting characters that were heavily featured throughout the show's run, such as Pepper Ann's classmate Dieter Lederhosen, who had moved here from Germany and throughout the series is revealed to be the secret crush of several characters in the show. There's Principal Hickey, who is constantly trying to run away from Pepper Ann's crazy misadventures, and because of all the mishaps scraps that Pepper Ann gets into really is the only antagonist of the show. And even Craig Bean, the hazelnut 8th grader and Pepper Ann's well, everyone's love interest, honestly. He just has this certain look about him with the sunglasses and the way his hair's parted, even has braces. Like he has the full TikTok starter kit right here. Pepper Ann herself is a snarky, tomboyish character who breaks away from the mold of other teen female protagonists of the time. She was a bold, confident character who controlled her own story instead of being a side piece of someone else's. It was one of the first times a female main character of a featured TV show operated like this, as a quirky, well-defined character who moved past the 90s cultural feminine norms, breaking the narrow stereotypes that female characters often fell into during this era, as well as being a prominent footnote for strong female leads going forward. This show walked so Kim Possible could run. Even more of note, this standard of fully developed, unique characters was applied to all of the female presenting characters in this show. From Pepper Ann and her friends to Pepper Ann's little sister Moose, a young child who found her truth in a gentle rejection of femininity and gender norms in general, and Pepper's mom, a single mother raising 2 children with care, compassion, and determination. Another way they broke out of the formulaic mold was by having Pepper Ann's parents be divorced. Her father Chuck, while rarely in the show itself, is scarcely detailed into who he is in general. We actually don't even see his face until the episode That's My Dad, emphasizing the distance her and her father have and the struggles that come from divorced parents, especially at a young age. Kinda surprising to see a deep-rooted internal and external struggle like this play out as some major plot points not only in the story, but in character development as well. Even bit too perfect Nikki Little is shown to have multiple dimensions through the series, with a great example being Season 4, Episode 15, The Amazing Becky Little. In this episode, Nikki deals with the jealousy she feels towards her nearly perfect and greatly fawned over older sister Becky when she comes to visit for their parents' anniversary. These feelings of jealousy and inadequacy were highlighted by Nikki stumbling at her audition for the Hazelnut Junior Orchestra, despite Pepper Ann and Milo's best efforts to help her, due to her fear of swans. It is this fear and this failure that gives Nikki the chance to reconcile with her older sister, who suffers through a similar feeling of inadequacy towards Nikki, before eventually going on to finish her audition. Pepper Ann's quirky ways began long before she ever appeared on Disney as a cartoon. Originally, Pepper Ann was created by Sue Rose as a teenage comic strip character who talked to herself about her inner feelings for the teen magazine YM, the, at the time, longest-running girl-focused magazine in the country. There, Pepper Ann carried much of the same messages and attitude as her later animated counterpart, with major differences being in design and the cast of background characters. It was later on that a friend of Rose suggested that she should try and pitch Pepper Ann as a TV show, so they went and had a nice lunch. No, they went and pitched the show, obviously. Rose already had some experience with animation and production companies as one of the co-creators of Fido Dido, a cartoon character and later PepsiCo mascot who was featured in numerous ads and commercials for the company. Using that experience, she worked out a storyline, aged Pepper Ann down a few years, created a supporting cast, and pitched it to Nickelodeon in 1995. Nick ended up turning the pitch down, feeling the character looked a bit too similar to Fido Dido. Hey, at least it's better than all the adult animated shows coming out today that all look the same. I mean, come on. If I took away any of these shows' names and told you they were any of the other shows here instead, you wouldn't be the wiser.
Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Rose then approached Tom Warburton, an animator Rose had worked with previously when developing Fido Dido, to help redesign her character in order to give them a more unique look. While this redesign did not get Nickelodeon to pick up the series, Disney eventually did and added it to their morning cartoon roster. A formal reason for why the show was eventually canceled has never been stated, but fans of the show simply chalked the cancellation up to Disney's stupidity. Hey, at least it had several seasons. If Nick did pick it up, it probably would have lasted like one before they shoved it on Nicktoons and let it slowly fade into obscurity. Maybe then Disney would have pulled a Doug and stole it over and given it its first movie. And its only movie. During and after Pepper Ann's success, Sue Rose went on to be involved with several other works that challenged stereotypical gender norms and characterizations while looking at the world with a more open three-dimensional view. Such works includes the cartoon Angela Anaconda. If you've ever seen the Digimon movie, you know what that is for sure. Which carried very similar themes of self-expression and confidence as Pepper Ann, as well as Sue would create the Nickelodeon show Unfabulous, which took a look at early teenhood in an earnest and lighthearted way. Yeah, I'll say it, Unfabulous was extremely underrated. don't at me. Pepper Ann's characterization as a spunky, well-rounded, stereotype-defying protagonist has made it a well-beloved childhood show for many that is often cited as an underappreciated narrative on the growth the 90s underwent in regard to gender roles and gender equality. Fans of the show now have the chance to rewatch the iconic series after 22 years, as Disney has recently put Pepper Ann on Disney Plus, where it can be enjoyed as well by a whole new generation. I wish I had given this show some more attention when it was originally airing, but I am glad I got to watch it growing up through mostly reruns and now being able to jump back into it as an adult and appreciate how ahead of the time it was and what it helped pave the way for. Pepper Ann is a certified classic gem in my book, and I implore you to give it a watch. I appreciate you checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts on Pepper Ann down below in the comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe for more content like this. If you know me, you know I'm a huge sci-fi nut. From dystopian futures to alien worlds to even bringing dinosaurs back to life, any amount of sci-fi has my interest. When growing up, I always took fascination with cartoons that would play around in this genre. So who else but Disney would come to that need once more and deliver onto us Lloyd in Space at the start of 2001. Coming to us from the creators of Recess, Joe and Salabahir and Paul Germain shifted their focus from the playground to the stars, where we would follow Lloyd Nebulon, a 13-year-old alien boy and his life on the Intrepidville space station. But what makes this show more interesting is that it is still a slice of life story, as Lloyd deals with at-home family issues as well as your average school problems, from schoolwork to bullies. So in a way, it's still a lot like Recess, but with its own unique spins on everything. So for today, let's take a look at what Lloyd in Space was, see what happened to it, and find out just why I, and maybe by extension you, barely remember this show. So sometime in the future, after World War IX, geez, just the thought of that sounds awful, we find a collaborative universe between alien species and even humans, which are just aliens, I guess, to the other species. Lloyd, of the vertigreen race of aliens, lives with his sister Francine and his mother, Commander Nora Lee, who, like her name suggests, is the commander of Intrepidville, a single mother who balances her job with raising kids, giving her a hard balance of being strict and being caring. Disney, in a lot of their shows, live action or cartoon, heck, even in big theatrical movies, had a focus on single parent or divorced parents or parents who passed away, or even parents just being absent, quite often in their works. I think for the majority of them, it added a more character depth aspect that allowed more viewers to resonate with. A lot of friends growing up had separated parents, and this vertical offered something beyond the script to lay attachment to. For Lloyd's school life, he's not the most popular, while having a nice friend group consisting of a human named Eddie, his overall best friend, who usually is the catalyst for more offbeat shenanigans that result in Lloyd getting in trouble. Douglas, the smart one of the group, he's also just literally a brain, a member of the aptly named Cerebellian species. Kurt, a member of the Blobulon species, is the less than smart, one-eyed purple giant who has the same voice of Patrick Star, so it often feels like the same character, perhaps slightly less dangerous than Patrick can get. Lloyd and his friends are still often picked on as the dorks of the school, resulting in them constantly being bullied by Rodney, a four-armed jock who is the team captain of the school's crush ball team. While an equal opportunist bully picking on most of the students at the school, he has been the main thorn in Lord's side, causing him trouble ever since the first grade. So as you can see, it's just like regular school, but in space. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Don't go away. Lloyd in Space will be right back on Toon Disney. And now back to Lloyd in Space, right here on Toon Disney.
But the show takes these relatable stories and experiences, adding on to them with that sci-fi angle, still giving you more fantastical adventures, but still rooting its heart within the characters. Aside from being a vertigreen, Lloyd is just like your average teenager. He has wants and dreams and crushes as well, specifically Brittany, who is the captain of the cheerleading squad. Throughout the series, we see that she also likes Lloyd but keeps it on the DL, so she doesn't get lumped in as a dork and outcasted by her friends. School really was a cutthroat world, sometimes I forget that. The show premiered as a part of Disney's one Saturday morning programming block, surprisingly receiving higher ratings than even Disney was expecting, which quickly propelled the show to have more episodes ordered by the network. Throughout its run, the show lasted 4 seasons with a total of 40 episodes. Well, really 39. The episode Picture Perfect never aired nor has been found, as it now remains a piece of lost media, although it did apparently air only in Asia in late February of 2003. We do have a synopsis though. A new kid named Derek transfers to the school, quickly becoming the most popular kid in the school due to how talented of a photographer he is. Everyone seems to like him, aside from Lloyd, who has some worries about why he needs to take all these pictures. Sounds pretty interesting. Maybe one day it will resurface. Or not, as a lot of lost media stays under the rumor category forever. Or maybe it was just an exclusive episode to that region based on the handful of episodes not being allowed to air over there. While maybe not having some heavily standout moments to make you always think of the show, some episodes would tackle more serious topics ahead of its time, as well as some fun Halloween content, you know, since this video is coming out during the season. Is Halloween an intergalactic holiday? What is space candy like? This is why I can't sleep at night.
Hey dude, you're not making a Lloyd in space video anytime soon, right?
I literally have it coming out Monday.
Bruh, I have one coming out Saturday.
So when I mentioned some episodes tackle some topics that you wouldn't find in a majority of cartoons or kids TV at the time, well, my friend Janiac Jr. just covered one of those set episodes over on his channel. And funny enough, those Discord messages are how we both found out we are making videos based on the same property. His video is linked in the description down below if you'd like to go over and show his content some love. He always makes great work. For me, what I remember the most specifically are the character designs. I think it was that middle ground of the Recess and Lilo and Stitch look that helped keep the character of Lloyd locked in my brain, as well as a lot of the look of the supporting cast. Like I mentioned, the sci-fi setting is what gravitated me more towards this show back when it came out, personally over the team's other show, Recess. While I do enjoy Recess overall, the appeal of taking these relatable stories and placing them in an unfamiliar environment resonated with me more. While getting lost into a well-written character can work in any setting, something about showing me something I can't experience with said well-written character adds that deeper layer for me to connect with the show. Maybe some of you experience that too. Hopefully I'm not alone in that, but regardless, the show left me with nice memories that weren't strong enough to recall the entirety of the show, but gave me that wanting to come back to it and see it all again. The thing I can easily see why a lot of people may remember this show in a very loose way like I did is because it didn't have those moments that had it step above the rest. There are so many cartoons from this era that are imprinted to perfection in our minds, so it wasn't easy to jump to the front of the line when looking back at the shows and cartoons you loved the most when growing up. While the characters may have been more unique than most shows, Disney had a lot more wider known alien related properties take center stage, almost in a way burying Lloyd to the back of your mind. I'm talking of course stuff like Lilo and Stitch and even Treasure Planet. Now you may be different. This could be your favorite show and you don't just barely remember it, you know everything there is. And that's great to hear that this show did leave that impression on some out there. The show ultimately came to an end in 2004. After Disney's one Saturday morning programming block was canceled on ABC, they ended up moving the show to Toon Disney to continue on. When it did end, it didn't even hit that Disney 65 episode limit rule they've had for so long, which a few shows as well never reached that limit either, despite having a good sized or even large viewing audience. It had a short second life after that, continuing on Toon Disney showing reruns of the show, until The Emperor's New School, a spin-off show based upon the Emperor's New Groove movies, ended up taking the spot. I am sure we will cover that show here on the channel sometime soon. Lloyd in Space was a fun look back on a show that I feel doesn't get enough love. Recess always seems to be remembered more, while Lloyd would bring over a lot of the same talented people to create that show as Recess was coming to an end. Something that would help is getting Lloyd in Space on Disney+. And at the time of this video, it unfortunately 2 years after launch has not been put on the service as of making this video, along with a myriad of other shows like this from this era that haven't made it there either. I think Lloyd would find a nice third life on Disney Plus if it were put on there, giving it a chance to reach back out to people who did watch the show when it aired and hopefully passing that enjoyment to new audiences just discovering it. It's a nice, easygoing show that still deserves to be mentioned in the grander conversation about cartoons from the early 2000s. While not reinventing the wheel, it's a nice twist on the already familiar, which allows you to connect with the characters while still experiencing something new to keep your interest. But let me know if you have seen the show show before, as well as your thoughts on it, since I feel not too many people remember the show, or if they do, just not the specific stories and plots within the show. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Wait, remember Kick Buttowski, the suburban daredevil? Disney's 2010 animated action series about the bodacious hijinks of a thrill-seeking, you guessed it, daredevil, who just wants to shred some gnar in his tubular town of radical characters. Ugh, you hear that? That's my age showing. Created by Sandro Casaro, we have the legendary tale of a kid growing up in the suburbs, finding a variety of ways to make the most mundane situations a stunt show. So tighten your headset, loosen your trucks, and strap your helmet on, cause it's time to kick some Buttowski. My age is still showing.
You're the most annoying person on the planet. I'm listening.
Kick Buttowski, the show, not the character, follows the misadventures of the amateur stunt kid, Kick Buttowski, the character, not the show. With nothing much to do in the little town of Mellowbrook, with the help of his incredibly supportive, fun-loving, and naive best friend Gunther, Kick strives to become the world's greatest daredevil. The performer, not the comic book hero. Alright, I'll stop that bit. But don't get me wrong, this kid is no slouch. Whether it's skateboarding, kart racing, or heck, even dodgeball, Clarence Kick Buttowski defies all the laws of physics and adheres only to the laws of awesome. But surprisingly, that's not all the show's about. Each episode follows the day-to-day lives of Kick and Gunther as they interact with, well, the neighborhood. A vast majority of the show's environments are everyday locations that you'd find in any neighborhood and surrounding town areas. Libraries, gyms, swimming pools, creeks, corner stores, amusement parks. Okay, maybe that one isn't everyday for most people. Schools, football fields, the whole 9 yards. Get it? A big part of what makes this series so much fun is seeing the different ways Kick and Gunther use their imagination to transform these settings into elaborate stunt shows. Sometimes not even for an audience. Not for fame, not for fortune, not money, but just for fun. Throughout the show's run, our noseless hero... Wait, where is his nose? Who knows? Oh, okay, I heard it that time. Sorry for the extra daily dose of Jordan Fringe today. Anyway, numerous opportunities arise to let the show flex its robust cast of characters. There's Brad, Kick's antagonistic but at times well-mannered older brother, Brianna, Kick's spoiled and melodramatic little sister, and their parents, Harold and Honey Buttowski. She's a fan favorite. The Buttowski family dynamic gets explored much more in the second season, and the same can be said about Gunther's family, descendants of Vikings who hail from the old country. We have Kendall Perkins, an academic enthusiast and Kick's will they won't they love interest, Ronaldo, who uses the laws of physics in contrast to Kick's laws of awesome, forming a rivalry between the two, Wade, the laid-back slacker whose cap covers his eyes, and you know, come to think of it, we never see underneath Kick's helmet. After losing it in the episode Exposed, the show goes out of its way to cover his head with a variety of different things. Mud, a trapper hat, and even a garbage can, before finally retrieving his helmet. So what does he look like without a helmet? Does he have hair? What color is it? I mean, at the end of the episode Not Without My Cereal, we see Kick sporting a mustache and sideburns, and they're brown, so I guess he's brunette? None of this matters. I don't know why I'm stuck on this for some reason. Well, his parents are... It doesn't matter. The show sports a large cast of voice actors and actresses, many of whom only voice one character each. Charlie Schlatter provides the deep and unflinching voice of Kick, Matt Jones provides the nasally and neurotic voice for Gunther, as well as voice acting veterans like Gray Delisle, Richard Horvitz, and April Winchell, just to name a few, to round out parts of the cast. Having such a wide variety of voices helps make each character stand out as their own distinct individual. Rather than sounding exactly the same, this is specifically noticeable when the characters are forced to work together in episodes like Detained. This episode, like many others, highlights the erratic nature of the show's animation. The way faces contort to convey pain, irritation, and disgust. The way backgrounds are used to express speed. Characters will squash and stretch to exaggerate their actions, then snap back once they're finished. Everything and everyone has a constant liveliness that helps the world of Kick Buttowski feel unique, and this is further accentuated by its soundtrack. Rock music and heavy guitar riffs are frequently spread across each individual stunt and action scene to give it that extra oomph. So let's take a look into the extra oomph that helped facilitate the creation of this show.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
Kick Buttowski, Suburban Daredevil, is up next.
Now
Now back to Kick Buttowski on Disney XD.
There is a childlike innocence in this show that elevates even the most boring of atmospheres, and it all makes sense once you learn that the creator of the show took inspiration from his own childhood while making it. Originally conceptualized as Kid Knievel, Casaro wanted to develop a series focusing on the misadventures of an unfazed daredevil living in a town similar to Stoneham, Massachusetts. And his inspiration didn't stop with just environments. Starting production at the tail end of 2008, the series was starting to take form of exactly what it would be, and by April of 2009, the title would officially change from Kid Knievel to Kick Buttowski for its eventual premiere on Disney XD. Something that is cool is the stunt coordinator working on the show is actually Evel Knievel's son, Robbie Knievel, really fitting for the theme of the show plus the show's original name. Premiering on Disney XD February 13th, 2010, even though it originally was set to launch in the fall of 2009 before being pushed a few months, the pilot episode would premiere to a huge 842,000 viewers, making it at the time the second highest rated series premiere in Disney XD history, which that network was still kind of new, but it was awesome for the show nonetheless. The second episode of the show would do even better with 972,000 viewers, coming close to breaking 1 million in viewership. The show was able to capture quite a bit of attention, with our main character here constantly taking risks to perform some over-the-top stunts. But the show itself was not afraid to take risks either. Kyle E. Coyote is an episode with almost no dialogue that pays homage to the classic Roadrunner cartoons. Scattered throughout the show are references to 80s nostalgia, but things are kept pretty modern, with an entire episode devoted to Kick trying to go viral, giving the show an almost anachronistic feel, meaning any generation of viewers could watch and find something relatable. But the biggest risk the show ever took was with the second half of its final season. You see, while the first season focused primarily on the stunts and action sequences, sprinkled in with some elements of comedy and great characterization, the second season tries to flip this around, putting greater emphasis on family stories and slapstick comedy, while stunts and action move further to the backseat as the season progresses. The best example of this being with Kick himself. As early as the first episode, whenever Kick wipes out, he never takes too long to spring back up and try his trick again, showing little to no fear in the face of a challenge. But by the time we reach season 2's episode Power Play, we see Kick struggling to handle injuries he would have shaken off previously. And to add insult to injury, get it? I'm so sorry. It's always done for a quick laugh and nothing more. It's always risky for a show to change its pre-existing formula, so I find it quite fitting for a show about a risk taker to become meta and take such a serious risk with itself, especially for its final season. The series concluded on December 2nd, 2012, with a motion picture of Kick living the life of a superhero, and at the end of the episode, Kick wakes up, realizing it was all a dream. He punches Brad and then dances to a song through Gunther's boombox, and that's it.
Kick Buttowski on Disney XD. Now back to Kick Buttowski on Disney XD.
So yeah, the show wasn't renewed for a third season, so it just kind of ends, which is a shame because there's definitely potential with this concept. A lot of modern Disney cartoons dabble heavily in the world building, story arcs, and extensive lore, but every now and then it'd be nice to get another show like this. It knows that it's an action series through and through, but never completely shies away from having fun little character moments and bits of continuity. This type of writing, putting fun before any degree of logic, translated well into the games that accompanied the show. Kick Buttowski Stuntastic, a physics and momentum-based game that tasks you with building your high score without falling face first into obstacles. Kick Buttowski Loco Launcho, a fast-paced minigame that thrusts you into the air, with your biggest objective being to remain in the air by unlocking upgrades while you strike poses. And Kick Buttowski Mellowbrook Mega Race, a kart racing minigame where you and your opponents can shoot projectiles to slow each other down. All three of these are just a few shining examples of how well a show with a simple plot can translate really well into a flash game, or even a full game if Disney saw the success of the show as something greater. The show exudes a childlike innocence and sense of fun, so of course the games do too. Currently, there are no talks of renewing or rebooting the series, which is a shame because what we did get was clearly a passion project from someone who wanted to tell a story of recapturing that blissful energy where anything seems possible. Or maybe the full story he wanted to tell was told and this was where he wanted to finish it at. As a kid, priorities are pretty simple. Go outside and have fun. Living in the suburbs meant having to create your own fun with the few things you had around you. Swing sets became Ferris wheels, creeks became jungles, and every object at a 45-degree incline could only ever be a ramp to ride off of. As a kid, you want to be the best there is at what you do. The fastest person alive, the one without fear, the #1 Pokemon trainer, and it all seemed real. It all seemed tangible. Okay, maybe not the Pokemon trainer part. Skateboarding downhill, biking with no brakes, and recreating your favorite action hero was all par for the course. You felt invincible because at the end of the day, you'd return to your street, cul-de-sac, etc., and sleep off any falls you may have had. Kick Buttowski may not have been the most story-driven, the most advertised, or the most focused series out there, but it captivated my inner child, taking me back to simpler times. And it's all because of one word: fun. Kick Buttowski is fun. There are no rules holding anything back, no drama that extends beyond a few episodes, no reliance on morals other than not trying these stunts at home. Tonally, it knows how to surround action set pieces with comedy, characters, and stories that never detour away from the #1 goal of the show. Kick Buttowski is fun, and I had fun watching it. But what do you think of Kick Buttowski? What was your favorite episode? Who's your favorite character? There are so many characters in this show, it honestly got hard keeping track of everyone's name by the end of season 2. But anyway, let me know all about it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Kim Possible is a young high schooler who extends her skills as a highly athletic cheerleader and gadget user to help those who reach out to her through her website, kimpossible.com. With the help of her clumsy sidekick Ron Stoppable and Rufus, the naked mole rat, as well as Wade, they travel all across the globe to foil the plans of evil villains. Except for Wade, he stays at home. Kim is a bit of a non-conforming vigilante superhero. For one, she doesn't have a secret identity. Everyone down to her parents, coach, teachers, and classmates know about her crime-fighting extracurriculars. I wish I could say that this works in her favor, but she doesn't really get special treatment from any of them, or fame, or notoriety, although I do appreciate that she has an honest and healthy relationship with her very supportive parents. Kim's attitude is confident, dexterous, and extremely positive, but although she is popular at school due to her high status as a cheerleader, she still has social issues like any teenage girl would. Born to a family of geniuses with a brain surgeon mother, a rocket scientist father, and 2 techie genius younger brothers, Kim struggles under the pressure of her family's expectations of her, or more so the expectations that she puts on herself. Because she's a cheerleader, she doesn't fit in with the normies, and because she's friends with a normie, meaning she doesn't adhere to social expectations of her status, she doesn't quite fit in with the popular crowd either. While she manages to flawlessly and confidently dominate in every one of her missions, the same can't necessarily be said for her life at home or at school. In fact, her missions tend to be the B-plot of most episodes where she thrives, and her regular life is where things get complicated. Because of the dynamic differences, both are just equally as interesting. The social and dialogue-heavy happenings is mentally stimulating, while her easygoing action-packed crime-fighting escapades are visually stimulating. They balance each other out really well and also give Kim's character a lot of emotional depth. Well-developed and expertly designed characters is one of the reasons that this series was widely popular to kids all around the world. Reaching international and domestic success, the series ran for 4 seasons, with a TV movie and 1 live-action movie that happened over a decade after the series ended. Kim Possible is one of the most beloved kids' cartoons, alongside shows like Danny Phantom, Phineas and Ferb, Ben 10, and many more. If you enjoy this video, you better subscribe, because today we are going to take a look at one of the biggest shows Disney had. This is the iconic rise of Kim Possible.
Okay, Wade, we're here. What's the sitch?
Kim Possible premiered on June 7, 2002. It centered around a brave and confident young heroine, Kim Possible, her goofy and lovable sidekick, Ron Stoppable, with his pet naked mole rat, Rufus. Through her website, as well as her Kimmunicator, I see what they did there, and her friend and 10-year-old genius prodigy, Wade, she is given missions in which she is tasked with stopping crime that is more often than not attempted by one or many of our favorite reoccurring villains, such as the duo of Dr. Draken and Shigo. Senor Senior Sr. and Senor Sr. Jr., Monkey Fist, Duff Killigan, and the list goes on. This series was really good at casting actors that were well known from other Disney works. Christy Romano is the voice of Kim Possible, previously known for her role in the Even Stevens Show and the movie. Will Friedle is Ron Stoppable, known for his role as Eric in Boy Meets World. And Taj Mowry plays Wade, known for his previous role as TJ in Smart Guy. Lastly, Rufus is played by Nancy Cartwright. Oh, you know, only the voice of Bart Simpson. A lot of the supporting cast has some more iconic big names. Debbie Reynolds plays Nana Possible, John DiMaggio plays Dr. Draken, Raven Simone plays Monique, Tara Strong plays, well, side character cheerleader named Tara, and Nicole Sullivan plays Shigo. It's a wonderful affair of voice talent to go around that truly bring a lot of life to this show.
Never be normal! Kim Possible is next on Disney Channel. Let's kick it back to KP on Disney Channel.
As the series evolves, we see Kim face newer struggles. The first few episodes don't reveal too much about her insecurities, so we are able to get into the groove with her confidence. But as the more complex social dynamics emerge over time, we see how much more fragile she can potentially be. She can be insecure and prone to material desires. She's just like me for real. But this doesn't make her unlikable. In fact, it makes her relatable. If she were just as amazing at home as she was out in the field, the series would be pretty boring. Instead, she has weak points that make her a believable character as well as lots of room to grow as a character. She knows that it's dumb to care about teenage drama, but it still affects her as much as she tries to ignore it. Also, she is a teenager. Cheerleader or not, she's not perfect. She's going through it just like you and me had to. Minus, you know, saving the world and stuff. I also appreciate that she's allowed to be what some would claim is stereotypically girly. This show will receive a lot of the same praise that I gave Totally Spies in my video for that show. In addition, she cares a lot about her social status and her grades. She's a walking, talking ball of anxiety that can be widely affected by one well-placed insinuation from a frenemy, like fellow cheerleader Bonnie Rockwaller. Her perfectionism and constant striving to be the best is not sustainable, and it shows. However, I do want to emphasize while she does struggle socially, she handles it with grace. Her vocabulary is filled with really fun and snarky teenage slang, and she is hyper-confident in herself physically when it comes to her fashion sense and how she presents herself. So even when she's insecure, she still manages to be someone that a younger viewer watching would strive to be when they grow up, or as they are experiencing it at the same time. Although she struggles immensely with asking people out and navigating the cheerleading squad, she is still a super suave and powerful character. She has that teenage spunk that isn't afraid to challenge authority. One of the running jokes of the show is that Kim has so much casual experience under her belt that whenever she needs anything, there is always someone who is indebted to her for either saving their livelihoods or families. When she thanks those who repay her, they always express their gratitude back, to which she always says, it's no big. Imagine saving someone's whole life and then saying, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. Her casual yet confident manner of speaking makes her that much more cool of a teenager and an overall character. Kim's character development really comes to a head in the Kim Possible movie, So the Drama, where Ron confesses his feelings towards her and they become the Disney super couple that all of us never, but simultaneously somehow always, knew we needed. If you weren't there at the time watching this show as it happened, this was such a long build-up and payoff that while enjoying reliving it again on a rewatch just didn't hit the same as now. You can just binge the show. You didn't have to wait literal years for this. After the events of the movie, where she finds confidence in who she loves and subsequently stops caring about what other people think, we see her character suddenly become so much more powerful and confident in a new way. It feels like it matches the rest of her character. Sort of reminds me how Kimmy's character in Symbionic Titan blossomed as she accepted her love for Octus. In addition to that, it also felt that there was more of a given purpose to explore these characters further beyond the movie, which could have been a solid ending to the series on its own. Kim Possible was created by Bob Schooley and Mark McCorkle. They were already aware that Disney was asking around for a show that showed ordinary kids in extraordinary circumstances. One day on the way back from lunch, Mark turned to Bob and said, "Kim Possible, she can do anything." And Bob said, "Ron Stoppable, he can't." And from there, the idea was born that there would be a girl action lead and a boy comedic sidekick. They realized that growing up, they had characters like James Bond and Captain Kirk to look up to, but their daughters did not share a common role model in TV or movies. Characters like James Bond and Captain Kirk were larger than life, and someone that each boy could look up to as someone that they wanted to be. After experiencing their daughters go through some of their formative years of life and growing up, they really started to notice the lack of female-led media that showcased a girl in those larger-than-life roles. They wanted someone that their daughters could pretend to be, much like how they pretended to be James Bond and Captain Kirk when they were younger. In creating Kim's character, they went through lots of ideas. The first few dealt with Kim being a blonde, with a standard athletic build, but from there they realized she had to be unique. When later consulting with Disney, they decided to move away from the classic look of a video game heroine, like their initial inspiration from Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. They decided to change her look to something more conducive to an actual real 14-year-old girl. The character design can be credited to a few people specifically. The season 1 director Chris Bailey played a key role, as did the art director Alan Bodner, and specifically the character designer Steven Silver. Silver had actually been a bit of a crossover as he was working on the Danny Phantom series full-time, and around that same time he was also freelance designing characters for Kim Possible on the side. Season 1 director Chris Bailey shared some of the art style inspirations for the series as a whole. They really looked toward futuristic designs that were essential to the 50s and 60s. Kidney bean shapes and free-flowing lines were important design factors to the furniture, interiors, and background art of the series. In creating the objects that would interact with the characters on screen, like cups and chairs, they leaned toward a larger-than-life effect. Technically, they tried to make the objects about 1/3 larger than they would appear in real life, much thicker and chunkier. There was also a lot of inspiration pulled from attraction posters from Disneyland in the 50s that were patterned after traditional European travel posters. Some of the defining factors of the art style were separation of foreground and middle ground with a heavy silhouette look. This created a heavy contrast, especially because they heavily used a geometric, bold, abstract even, type of shape and design. This created a huge sense of distance between the foreground and background, as well as the characters that were shown on the screen. The characters, Kim especially, had noticeable shading differences compared to other characters, especially in scenes where she is in her crime-fighting getup, her iconic baggy military cargo pants and long-sleeve crop tee. Kim and Ron's outfits are really similar, yet there is always a distinct difference in the shade of her outlines and his. Each character has 3 degrees of value to them that make them stand out. This really emphasizes how the show gets more abstract and simpler, yet more artistic as the series develops.
Kim, pick up, pick up, pick up!
Kim Possible is next on Disney Channel. Booyah! Kim Possible is back!
The series was a smash hit and even dodged initial cancellation. The creators shared that they had noticed an ancient truism that shows starring boys are easily marketable to girls, but shows starring girls are more difficult to get boys to watch. So when the series was a hit with both demographics, they were thrilled. When the series had initially drawn to a close, Kim Possible the movie, So the Drama, was supposed to serve as a series finale, giving the audience the closure they wanted in seeing both Kim and Ron come together at a happy ending. But one thing you will learn about fans is that once you give them a taste of what they want, they're gonna want more. After the intense success of the movie, there was such a huge outcry of fans wanting the show back to see more of Kim and Ron. The series was also performing extremely well internationally, specifically in Germany and Japan, so it made financial sense for Disney to invest in another season after the global buzz following the movie. So they returned for a 4th and final season, with the true last episode airing on September 7th, 2007. The reason for Kim Possible's initial cancellation was heavily attributed to executive turnover. At that point, so many of the executives that had given the series the green light had left, and with so many new and fresh people being ushered in, they wanted to make their own legacies and usher in their own shows that they could call their own, especially Phineas and Ferb, which was being pitched around at the time Kim Possible was drawing to a close. And a lot of them were ready to start something new. To be quite honest, it kind of shows that the writers weren't fully prepared to have to deliver more of what the audience wanted with Kim and Ron's relationship. They even have admitted that themselves. I understand that some fans were frustrated that they aren't the smooth operating duo that they could be, but to be honest, if when they weren't together, they never worked together that smoothly to begin with. Not to mention, for a young couple in their first real relationship, they have a great amount of healthy trust in each other. When Bonnie kisses Ron, Kim automatically dismisses his excuses, making a joke joke about how she knows he didn't instigate it, because it had taken him 12 years to kiss her, and so now she is just angry at Bonnie instead. For a young couple, they are surprisingly in a very healthy relationship, and although the writers weren't fully prepared to go and have to back up their decisions to couple them up after the movie, they did a pretty good job of it, beyond just having to come up with what this final season would be. In the beginning, Kim first started her life-changing website because she wanted to make extra money through her freelance babysitting and lawn mowing services. You know, the typical teenage stuff. However, when an eccentric billionaire gets stuck in a laser maze that was intended to protect his collectible plush collection, collecting things, what a weirdo. Anyway, while trying to contact Team Impossible, they accidentally contact Kim through her website. When she receives the requisition, however, she doesn't turn them down. In fact, it becomes her first real Kim Possible mission, setting the course for how she will live the rest of her life following. As I mentioned earlier, around the time Kim Possible was developed, Disney was looking to showcase ordinary kids in extraordinary situations. And this show does exactly that. The series shows that saving the world is not necessarily a task left to fully grown adults like Batman, but something that kids can achieve by just believing that they can do it, even with so little life experience that often leaves more room for growth. She could easily have taken a look at the billionaire's request and decided to hand off the responsibility, but that didn't even occur to her because she did say that she could do anything. It's an important life lesson that can be applied in a smaller scale to the kids that watch. Not that they should be going around attempting to stop museum heists, but that they, just like Kim, can achieve anything if they just put their mind to it. The most reoccurring villain has to be the Dr. Draken and Shigo duo, which initially wasn't going to be written to reflect Kim and Ron's relationship. Dr. Draken, despite his immediately dominating aura, weathered look, and implied PhD or MD, he turns out to be more bumbling and easily manipulated just like Ron. It's clear that Shigo runs the show and is the world's most powerful and apt at defeating Kim, even though she never does defeat her fully. They appear to be evenly matched mentally because physically, Shigo's got those glowy hand powers that you'd think would be more effective. It's evident by the way that Draken and Ron both just being strung up and incapacitated in the same situation, while the fighting continues with Shigo and Kim. And because we're so confident in Kim's ability to defeat her enemies in the ring, they offer a really fun dynamic and familiar face along with plans that aren't actually all that evil or as despicable as they try and present themselves to be. Now, here is the non sequitur of me in my younger years watching the show and seeing Shigo for the first time and truly having that realization. The one that, oh yeah, that's what I like. I'm into that. For characters like her or Raven from Teen Titans, when I was a kid, I had a full understanding that going into adulthood, I would carry my personal acquired tastes into future relationships. Listen, we all have those characters that just hit you in different ways and boom, before you know it, it's controlled your whole life going forward. I don't need to elaborate further. I'm sure you all have your own characters from moments in time to point back to. Some may say the same with my examples, but nevertheless, here I am telling my story to the internet. You're welcome, or I'm sorry. Take your pick. As far as my personal feelings on the show in general, I think it truly was one of Disney's most special shows, allowing for both great characters and engaging action that flows together very nicely. Kim and Ron are both extremely relatable for both of their own character traits that I feel can be seen in anyone watching. I can see parts of who I am as a person in both Ron and Kim, which is a testament to how these two were developed. I also liked how they showcased Kim's relationship with her family at home, dealing with her parents and siblings in a less than traditional way we would see in a lot of other cartoons, especially at the time. The parents felt like actual parents who cared for their kids but never treated them as less than for being kids. In a lot of shows, parents would be portrayed as distant, dumb, or in some cases evil, which sure, I think that works for a lot of other shows that present different stories with different tones to them. It was just refreshing here to have a bit of levity with the parental figures. To me, Kim Possible is an incredible show that only gets better and better the more you watch it. I think it's one of the greatest things to come from Disney, not just in that era it came out in, but in general and overall.
Very well. Where's my checkbook?
Kim Possible's got your back, and she'll be back.
Kim is hot on the case.
Kim Possible was one of the biggest successes for Disney and for the future of Disney. It not only was breaking new ground having a show that both demographics were heavily invested in, amassing a large fan base, it was great at blending in so many different genres, from the typical school setting to James Bond-esque missions, sci-fi elements, and hand-to-hand combat that you'd find in some classic action movies. It was never scared to keep switching things up, but keeping the main core of the show, the characters, who they were. The show also really helped pave the way for female-led action shows, as we would quickly see more shows in that nature pop up over the next couple decades. And a lot of those shows ended up becoming massive hits of their own and have personally become some of my favorites. It told the networks that giving a chance to something like this was worth developing, as it would bring that divided gap of the back then girl show or boy show debates. It gave an open welcome for anyone to watch the show and for anyone to enjoy what it was. On top of that, a strong lead character who isn't shown to be perfect but is shown to be herself. If you take out all of the action and all of the crime fighting, you are still left with great characters that can make an impact on you and allow you to see yourself in. Kim Possible was able to deliver 4 seasons and a movie's worth of entertainment from 2002 to 2007. It was able to expand into a massive franchise with video games, merchandise, and so much more. How many people had the Kim Possible ringtone for either their text message alerts or incoming phone calls? It built up such a strong brand that so many could look up to. It even had a fun crossover episode with Lilo and Stitch, the animated series, in a pretty cool way. But as far as the future of Kim Possible, we were actually given a live-action movie, which I've come to learn that a lot of fans have chosen to ignore, but it happened. In fact, it was quite recently released, having come out in February of 2019. From having no content since 2007 to receiving a live-action movie in 2019, it was quite surprising to see Disney try and gauge some interest with this property for a new generation, as the movie itself was skewed a bit younger. I am all for more Kim Possible, but more so on the cartoon side of things than the live action side. And that's not me saying I think the live action film was bad, that's just me saying I don't personally have an interest in that. Christy Romano has been vocal about wanting to do a reboot of the series, so who knows what may come in the future. It just depends on where Disney does or does not want to take this IP. But in that same breath, I'm actually quite happy with the series that we have right now and where it left at. It's a great comfort series to revisit whenever I'm in the mood for it, and it's a sizable enough amount of content, so I'm pretty content on it. I just wouldn't say no if more episodes were to come out. But what if there is actually more? This year we hit the 20th anniversary for the series, which is awesome to see how many people still deeply care about Kim Possible all these years later. But Kim Possible may just have that continuation after all. Listed on IMDb, Kim Possible, instead of saying 2002 to 2007, now reads 2002 to 2023, and under the seasons it shows a question mark and a release date for an episode that is 28 minutes long, coming out on July 7th, 2023, which would be 21 years and 1 month since the original first episode of Kim Possible was released. It also has the name for the first episode being Possible Team Part 1, which is pretty interesting based on where Kim Possible left at and what the team name for Kim, Ron, Wade, and Rufus is. So who knows what this could be all about. I think the most interesting part is that it is titled Part 1, which could indicate that this is a special that consists of a few parts to it, or the beginning of a new season of the show. Since it's listed as a part of the original series, that most likely means that this is a continuation and not a reboot of the show. While making this video, however, they also updated it to no longer show the name of the episode, which is also pretty interesting, so I guess we shall wait and see. The iconic rise that Kim Possible had, regardless of being off the air since 2007, I don't believe personally has ever fallen, so it may just be time for that rise to continue its upward trend. But how do you feel about Kim Possible? Are you a massive fan of the series, and would you be into a continuation of the show if that turns out to be true? Let me know in the comments. Wait, remember Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures? It was a show full of friendship, heroism, and war? Yeah, you heard me right. I'm talking about a violent coup d'etat, resulting in an international political conflict with clashing revolutionary forces kinda war. And if that didn't catch your attention, I don't know what will. Lately, I've been feeling pretty Pac-stalgic when it comes to the missing one slice of pizza-shaped yellow hero. Except for that time, he wasn't a hero. Yeah, we don't talk about that anymore. But honestly, growing up, Pac-Man was everywhere. More specifically, with video games, the hours I would put into the original, the Championship Edition DX, Pack-and-Roll on the DS, Pac-Man World, and I am so excited that we just got Pac-Man World Repack recently as a complete remake of that game.
And as some of you know, I have a gaming channel coming soon. It'll be linked down below, and some of the Pac-Man games are something I definitely look forward to covering. So yeah, check that out if you're interested.
But in general, I love Pac-Man. Okay, maybe not as much as that guy, but still. Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures follows Pac and his spherical friends as they try their best to protect Pac-World from the evil ghosts that have escaped the Netherworld and the overlord of the Nether, Betrayus. Now, you may be thinking, Jordan, how could anyone possibly make an engaging television show based around a concept as simple as Pac-Man? And to that I say, good question. I would say let me know in the comments, but the video just started and I'm gonna answer that for you. Maybe.
Chip and dip-alicious!
Jerry, video games are the latest craze to sweep the country and most of the world, too.
It is a cacophony of sounds from a symphony of electronics.
Electronics is changing so rapidly. Video games fever has prompted a number of businesses try to cash in on that billion-dollar craze.
Part of the fascination is the way the games are designed. David Nichols likes to play Pac-Man. Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Pac-Man.
This is the current craze game, Pac-Man.
The Pac-Man arcade game was created by Toru Iwatani and released in Japan on May 22nd, 1980. At-home gaming consoles had only just recently been invented, but they were not nearly accessible enough as they are today. So the arcade market was booming, but quickly becoming mainly a boys' club. The majority of the games at the arcade too were marketed towards men as well, with heavy violence and mainly shooter-based games like Space Invaders. Iwatani wanted to add some diversity to the space, with a game that was brighter, more colorful, and not the theme of killing things. Targeting a female demographic partially, he decided to make the game surrounding the objective of eating, because if there's anything we know about women, it was that they'd be eaten. Am I right, fellas? Obviously, I'm joking, but wow, you know, I don't know how to continue from this. Well, regardless of his method and original thought process, something seemed to work because apparently everyone loves eating, not just women. Shocker. Pac-Man attracted all demographics and its success quickly skyrocketed. The objective of the game, if you aren't already familiar, is to make your way around a maze as a little yellow circle, eating dots and avoiding ghosts. If you manage to eat one of the larger dots, you're able to temporarily power up and eat the ghost that you're trying to avoid. And don't forget the cherries, ever! Now, obviously, from there we got spin-offs and sequels and different iterations of what Pac-Man is and can be, but as far as where Pac-Man in general started at, there you go. The series was developed for television by Tom Ruegger and Paul Rugg, not to be confused with Paul Rudd. They are a duo well known for their work in shows like Animaniacs and Freakazoid. The executive producer of the series was Avi Arad, who is the founder of Marvel Studios and ex-CEO since he stepped down from that role in 2006. Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures was first introduced in a teaser trailer at the 30th anniversary celebration of Pac-Man at an E3 panel in 2010. 3 years later, the series premiered on Disney XD on June 15th, 2013, and ran for 52 episodes in total with 2 seasons. In some territories, the second half of Season 2 was technically released as a Season 3, but, you know, semantics. We jump right into our story at a typical school day in which our protagonist, Pac, voiced by Aaron Matthews, attends said school. It's established that he is not very popular at the school and is made fun of for being afraid of ghosts, which are regarded as a bit of a myth around Pacopolis. Maybe he's not liked because his name is Pac and everything on the planet of Pac-World sometimes has the name Pac in it, like the city of Pacopolis. While lost in a maze, Pac accidentally opens the gate to the Netherworld, unleashing ghosts across the Pac-Town. It just doesn't stop. The Netherworld is where our main opposing force resides. His name is Betrayus, and he is the king of the Netherrealm, as well as all of the ghosts that live there. Throughout the series, Pac and his 2 friends, Cylindria and Spiral, along with the help of 4 ghost double agents, Pinky, Blinky, Inky, and Clyde, must protect themselves from the ghosts that wander their town and defeat each of Betrayus' evil attempts to destroy Pac, as he is the only singular threat threat to the ghosts. It's an easy concept to understand. If you've been a fan of Pac-Man and have played a variety of the video games in the franchise, you are well aware of the weird and bizarre stories, characters, and play styles that accompany them all. So this is completely fine.
We'll be right back to Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. And now back to Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures.
Early on in the series, we learn that Pac is actually the last of his race as a yellow Pac worlder. The yellow worlders are regarded as superheroes essentially, and they all possess the ability to eat ghosts, sending them back to the Nether. Well, at least they used to be regarded as that before the entire species was wiped off the face of Pac World. What is a kid's show without a little touch of Pac worlder extinction to it? The president of Pacopolis brings Pac to the Tree of Life. No, not the divisive Terrence Malick movie. This Tree of Life, which grows the power berries that Pac is able to eat to power up and consume ghosts. Because this is Pac's source of power, it's often one of the more targeted things in the series, next to Pac himself, of course. There's a minty ice berry which allows Pac to freeze things and fight with ice that he has formed. There's a kung fu berry which gives the user major martial arts skills. There's a Paczilla berry which allows the consumer to size up quite a lot. There's a rocket berry, bounce berry, chameleon berry, garlic berry, wizard berry, youth berry. There's like a berry for everything, dude. A lot of these were the inventions of Circumference, or just Circum for short. Being a scatterbrained, Einstein-looking inventor genius extraordinaire, he quickly becomes a mentor and friend to the Pac group, and even hits it off with Pac's aunt. Soon he will be Uncle Cumference. So Pac is the last of his kind, an orphan raised by his orange aunt. But he is also named savior of Pacopolis as the only Pac person that has the ability to defeat the ghosts. But he seems to be doing okay with it all and coping well. There's actually an episode where Pac and his friends are able to travel to the past, cleverly titled Pac to the Future, in which Pac is able to spend time with his parents and himself as a baby. And this episode will give you whiplash because of the tonal shifts that it goes through. He almost decides to stay behind with his parents, but when his baby self throws a toy at their time machine, he is sent back, which definitely is for the best, but yeesh, talk about the trauma. Following the original theme of the game, Pac seems to suffer from some form of eating problem, as highlighted by his concerned friends. It's referenced that it's actually a side effect or characteristic of being yellow, but much like me, he just can't stop eating. He lacks self-control, and considering he's technically all mouth, I'm really curious about where it all goes, but I'm too afraid to Google that, so I guess I'm not really that curious after all. Pac is a pretty positive and upbeat kid, but he is prone to common bad habits that come with being a kid, like putting off schoolwork or being self-centered, but that's on occasion, you know, when we gotta learn a moral or lesson or something. He is extremely kind to his friends and doesn't hesitate to save anyone or give anyone a second chance. This is evident by how quickly he was willing to give Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde a chance at redemption. Once when they surrendered, and another when they double-crossed him by luring him and his friends to betray us. The four ghosts, though, do serve different character roles. You see what I did there? I said roles, and in the title card I wrote roles. I know, I don't get paid enough to do this. Pinky, voiced by Ashley Ball, is the easy to anger but mainly sweet and ditzy pink ghost, who is constantly flirting with Pac despite his disinterest. Blinky is the red ghost, voiced by Ian James Corlett. He is dubbed the leader of the four of them, and his attitude is very snarky and a little too confident for his own good. Out of the four of them, he tends to be a bit more mischievous, finding a lot of pleasure in scaring the citizens of Pacopolis. Inky, voiced by Lee Takar, is really similar to Blinky in the way that he is also pretty mischievous and likes to play pranks, scaring Pac people. He is blue with a much more laid-back attitude and definitely has untreated ADHD, much like myself. Lastly is Clyde, voiced by Brian Drummond. Clyde is the peacekeeper of the group and is the true leader if you ask me. Although he doesn't have the most brain cells, he is responsible for a lot of their survival in many instances, kinda serving as a delegate between the ghosts and Pac's group. Pac's two friends, Cylindria and Spiral, are voiced by Andrea Libman and Sam Vincent. Cylindria, or Silly for short, plays a similar role to Pinky because she also has a crush on Pac, but is different because she doesn't want to admit it. Man, Pac is really quite the ladies' man. The ladies' Pac-Man. She has this hipster goth-esque appearance, and she is proven to be one of the more intelligent members of the friend group. Spiral, on the other hand, is Pac's best friend and has more of an athletic fashion. He is shown as sort of a protector figure for Pac due to his height, and other than that, he really doesn't have much more to stand out with his personality traits. In fact, a lot of them don't. The characters here are very one-dimensional and don't really seem to grow or evolve with the series. What you often see with a character is what you get. They try to emphasize the three of them in a found family dynamic, which is something I always love to see explored, as a way of confronting Pac when the topic of his parents come up. But really, watching the series, I don't understand why they're all friends. There's no bonding moment seen or carried through episode to episode. It seems that each character was created individually because they needed a character to check every box to make sure they didn't just create Pac-Man 3 times over, or just have Pac-Man by himself, but I think Pac-Man working with the ghost to take down Betrayus would have worked great. Maybe something could have been done for a found family story with unlikely pairing of people, or ghosts and Pac people. Each episode can hold its own individually. Other than the first 2 episodes, which do a good job at setting up the plot for the rest of the series, there's really no reason why you would need to watch every episode in order, which does make it something that you can put on in the background and enjoy from time to time in passing. But that also defeats the purpose, because one of the 2 most enjoyable things about the show are the clever visuals and ways that they build the Pac world for the viewer. There seems to be a lot of room to expand on this Pac lore, but the structure and nature of the show holds itself back from doing so, which is fine. Individual episodes and self-contained episodes are great. This is just me personally seeing more potential and fleshing out the groundwork that is here. The way that Pac-Man is treated like a common theme for everything in Pac World reminded me a lot of the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald, a show that I did a video on earlier this year. Pac-Land does the same that McDonald Land does by making everything Pac-Man themed. There's a Pac version of every Pac thing in the Pac world, and the circle with a slice out of it motif is seen practically everywhere you look. I even own this in Fortnite. Yes, I enjoy me some Fortnite to de-stress at the end of the day. You got a problem with that, bucko? But you can see how much fun the production team had making everyone's name related to a circular shape and adding Pac into various words. They speak Packlish instead of English and celebrate Independence Day instead of Independence Day. But you know what is just too out of pocket for even me? Pac World War I. Yeah, you heard me right. Pac World War I. Now, I just have so many questions because the fact that they have to specify that this is the first World War means that there's at least a second Pac World War. Just think about that for a second, because this rabbit hole of thought can get very weird and very dark very fast. It's literally all the Cars lore all over again. Thanks, Hasanabi. You ruined the internet's childhoods. So let's just move on.
What a Weasley little liar, dude. Literally lying.
The second thing I found enjoyable about the series was the villain of the story, Betrayus. He is the brother of President Spheros and the leader of the revolt that incited Pac World War I, aka the Ghost War. After his defeat, he and the men who fought for his side were stripped of their corporal bodies and sentenced to be confined to the netherworld as ghosts for the rest of their existence. Betrayus is the kind of bumbling villain that everyone loves. His incompetence makes him an entertaining enough antagonist that strays away from the typical cunning and artful manner of villain that is more common. Betrayus is very frequently outsmarted or bested by Pac due to his lack of awareness or patience. Sam Vincent does a great job at giving his voice a very recognizable evil character that also lives up to his idiocy. The series also gets bonus points in my book for the animation. For a 2013 computer animated series, it doesn't look half bad. The first 2 episodes, however, were great in terms of animation quality, and it's clear that they spent a lot of time for this 2-part premiere. Even with the quality noticeably decreasing as the show went on, it's still pretty good for the remainder of the series. But what happened to this show? This new age of Pac-Man that they were trying to overhaul for their IP.
What? Breakfast?
Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures will be right back. Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures now returns.
Although initially rated very well, the reason that this show didn't make it past 2 seasons, or 3 depending on where you live, could possibly be the lack of sales from the content of the series itself, such as toys and video games. The various power-ups of Pac, depending on which berry he eats, already kind of felt like an excuse to make variations of Pac to make into action figures, and market to kids the fact that the series was basically made with the intention of releasing at least one game along with it. The Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures console game and a smartphone game called Pac-Man Dash, released the same year the show premiered, and the sequel to that first game, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures 2, released the following year in 2014. Usually people can tell they're being told a story as a marketing ploy, and the show felt like that at certain times to me. It didn't feel like there was much creativity going into the series for the most of it. However, I do like the references to the video games and the various nods or jokes to the things that made Pac-Man Pac-Man. There is just this layer of addition to the show that isn't present in favor of maybe just having a show out there. But then again, it is a show for kids, and there's a reason why it did so well initially with its demographic. It's recognizable, it's colorful, it's got engaging action, and it's got a ton of fart jokes. But it wouldn't have been impossible to stuff in some more intelligence or some other factor to bring it above just a gateway from show to video games and toys. But the biggest crime that the show committed was the theme song of the show, and no offense to the writers and performers of this theme song, but what in the 5 minutes and Crayola crayons was this?
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
It was so disliked that nearly a decade after the show premiered, it was still getting memed about on Twitter. And if you really think about how Bandai Namco tried putting a split in the modern Pac-Man, it may show a lack of faith in the new design and direction here for Pac-Man, or one of consumer products first. Example, when it came to getting Pac-Man in Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, it was the more classic design and style of Pac-Man who was placed in the game. And now, to be fair, that was a decision from Masahiro Sakurai, who preferred the original look to Pac-Man instead of the new one. And if Bandai Namco weren't going to change his look back to the original for this game, then he would have been cut out of the game completely. But the thing that really cements the point here is that Pac, right here, Paxter as his friends call him, technically may not even be the real Pac-Man at all. Literally, at the start of this new brand refresh for Pac-Man, Pac is Pac-Man. The title of the show is Pac-Man, so we follow Pac-Man on said ghostly adventures. Easy enough to follow, simple, and makes sense. Funny thing is though, that there are many hints and notions in the show that Pac and Pac-Man are not one in the same. Speculation on why this may be comes from possibly trying to tone down the amount of dislike towards this version of Pac-Man, a way to fan down the flames on die-hard Pac-Man fans who weren't on board for the changes. Now, a lot of the surface level reasons boil down to previous video games looking into the backstory of Pac-Man, but treating this strictly as a reboot, a whole new interpretation of the character, the real evidence comes from a Pac-Man arcade party cabinet in the background of the cafeteria. But who knows? It could all just be nothing, so let's treat it as such for now. Also, to me, all these other characters look like M&M's candy. So did you watch this series when you were younger? Did you watch it when you were older? I know this guy here sure did. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe with notifications on for more content like this, or I'll tell my mom you didn't let me play next on the video game. Wait. Remember Teacher's Pet? It was a Disney Channel original animated series that was created by renowned fine artist Gary Baseman, along with married duo Sherry and Bill Steinkilner. Directed by Timothy Bjorklund, this show just keeps delivering with its renowned and highly sophisticated team. But I don't want to get too much ahead of myself just yet. Premiering on September 9th, 2000, this show is about a boy named Leonard Amadeus Helperman and his dog, Spot. Spot is not only anthropomorphic, but is passionate about learning, so he follows Leonard to school, donning a pair of glasses, a pair of pants, a shirt, and a cap. They'll never suspect a thing. With a recognizable art style and use of classical and orchestral Disney music, the show has a distinct tone and atmosphere. Despite these things, the show didn't really go anywhere, jumping from channel to channel. It had a semi-brief run. However, it doesn't feel like it was cut off in any major capacity, which could be thanks to what served as the finale to the series, which was in the form of a theatrically released movie. So let's jump into the lore of Teacher's Pet and why Spot wants to be, nay, has got to be a boy, because that's the theme song.
Don't get me started.
The show's origin can be traced to Gary Baseman's dog, when he thought about what his Cocker Spaniel Hubcaps was doing when Baseman wasn't at home. From there, the idea was born of a little dog that gets lonely and goes to school to study with his owner. In the concept of Spot, Baseman was heavily inspired by the camp concept of the Superman comics in which Clark Kent mastered the art of disguise with his glasses. He embraced the absurdity of Spot, or rather his human alter ego, Scott Ledreddy II. Before Teacher's Pet, Baseman was a renowned fine artist with a very recognizable style. Over-exaggerated people or animals with bulging, veiny eyes and long, rubbery, noodle-like bodies. Those are just some identifying factors. It's absurdist pop surrealism. Some of his work actually looked to be inspired by some of Hiranuma Bosch's work, which emphasized storytelling in multiple locations of a singular painting. But I'm not here to teach you art history, so how about a fun fact? PewDiePie has a tattoo on his arm that depicts one of Baseman's paintings of a skeleton riding a black cat. Neat. Famous for his art design in the Hasbro Cranium interactive board games, a staple of family game night for some, he was essential in the visual creativity that went into the show, considering Teacher's Pet a fine art cartoon. Producer for the show, Steven Swafford, emphasized the importance of the animation by thinking about the big screen as a canvas, and ensuring that there was a dedicated team of background painters, color stylists, character designers, and a layout artist to stay true to Baseman's original artistic vision. Other than his work in fine art and games, Baseman was fairly new to the world of animation, having done 2 shorts for Nickelodeon in the past. He created a once-aired Kablam segment called The Louie and Louie Show.
Another Kablam short, Stewie the Dog Boy, which was set to receive its own spin-off show from Kablam, was going to fully be about a dog wanting to be a boy and go to school. But clearly Nickelodeon wasn't fast enough to produce this, and once they had saw that Disney already had Teacher's Pet in motion, the full idea for the show was scrapped.
Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of those who have created or acted in this show are not the typical cartoon aficionados. The Steinkellners were most famous for their work on Cheers, The Lion King 1.5, and the Sister Act book. And don't forget Bill's work on Chef Emerald's show, BAM! In fact, many of the cast is from these other projects. Kelsey Grammer, yes, Frasier, stars as the evil and mad Dr. Ivan Crank in the Teacher's Pet movie. Nathan Lane, who you might know as the famous role of Timon in The Lion King, plays Spot and plays Phil in Frasier. David Ogden Stiers plays Mr. Jolly, the cowardly and romantic tabby cat, as well as Leland in Frasier. Sorry, there's a weird Frasier connective pipeline here and I just couldn't ignore it. Deborah Jo Rupp is Leonard's mother, Mrs. Mary Lou Moria Angela Darling Helperman. Wallace Shawn is the cat-loving, dog-hating Principal Strickler, and more cartoon-oriented actors include Sean Fleming as Leonard, who also played both Tim and Jim Possible in, yeah, you guessed it, Kim Possible. And Mae Whitman is also here, voicing Leonard's crush, Leslie. Rob Paulson, good old Carl Weezer, is Ian Wazelski. Jerry Stiller, who plays Pretty Boy, the sassy and mean-spirited bird, is yet another renowned 90s sitcom actor, best known for his role as Frank Costanza in Seinfeld. Yeah, it's safe to say that this cast is stacked with so much talent and a lot of Frasier alumni.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. Oh, Mama! With more Teacher's Pet. Let's get back to more Teacher's Pet.
So with all of this talent and carefully crafted art direction, why don't we remember it as well as a core memory? I mean, some of you out there have to, right? It could possibly be attributed to the show's network inconsistency, jumping around from network to network. The show premiered in September of 2000 on ABC Family's Disney's One Saturday morning cartoon block, then moved to Toon Disney, which is now Disney XD. And for its informal 3rd season, or better understood as its second half of season 2, premiered on the Disney Channel. It technically is considered for only running for 2 seasons, so they just pretended there was a 3rd. And the show lasted a total of 39 episodes, with the last episode airing May 10th, 2002. Since 2006, the show did not experience any reruns, but was fully available on Disney Plus launch day along with the Teacher's Pet movie. That released in theaters as a feature film on January 16th, 2004. The movie serves as a finale of the show, bookending the series completely. So not enough love to keep the show going, at least to the 65 episode limit, but still warranted a movie in which finalizes the series? Interesting play, Disney. Interesting play. The movie itself actually goes further into the lore of Teacher's Pet. Dr. Ivan Crank is introduced as an archetypal mad scientist who is generally regarded as wacko. His general evil plan is to transform animals into humans, and maybe a little bit of vice versa. How very Kafka-esque, or technically reverse Kafka-esque, or maybe reverse Cronenberg-esque, but Spot doesn't turn into shirtless 80s Jeff Goldblum, so that's a bummer. Also, this opens a whole universe for discussion. Does giving animals the ability to talk and think like humans mean that they now have awkward conversations based on the past events they've witnessed beforehand? Man, Spot's gonna be pissed when he realizes Leonard probably neutered him. Personally, the show was pretty entertaining. Between the art and the voice cast, the show definitely had a level of entertainment that brought me back to some warm, cozy, nostalgic feelings. At only 2 seasons in a movie, I enjoyed what there was to offer. However, I wouldn't say much would bring me back to watch it again, at least anytime soon. The concept is cool and all, but I did feel partway through season 2 that I've seen it all, starting to drag on a tad bit. Not necessarily in a bad way or anything, just more of a slower burn to get through. As for the movie, it offered a fun, larger adventure that feels both similar to the show itself, but yet so different. I like that we get a look into some explanation that totally wasn't necessary as it's a cartoon. You can suspend your disbelief a little bit, but it was a cool way to bring in a villain and tell a different story away from the show itself. Oh, and Spot dies in this. Okay, he's completely fine, but I think this may have done better as a TV movie. I say this because the show itself wasn't the biggest show at the time. It didn't have nearly the biggest fan base to pack out theater after theater for a massive successful release. And that's not me saying the show didn't have a fan base, it most absolutely did, but on a $10 million budget, the film sadly only returned right under $6.5 million, making it a decent sized flop for the studio. But none of that means the show or the movie were bad or had a majority negative outlook.
You are so unspeakably cruel. Teacher's Pet is coming at you next on Disney's One Saturday Morning.
Despite the generally positive audience feedback, thanks to a lackluster turnout at the theater, it probably is the reason why we aren't seeing any spin-off shows or revivals, and as of right now, there's nothing being talked about. And that's okay, as not everything needs a comeback, reboot, revival, sequel, or prequel. Sometimes properties are best left the way they are and to be enjoyed for what they were. A Forbes article talks about how the Teacher's Pet movie would be perfect as a Broadway musical, but that's just an op-ed, and it doesn't hint at any ideas going around Disney Productions for the future of Teacher's Pet. I mean, it's not like Nathan Lane has won 3 Tony Awards or anything. For now, I guess we'll just have to keep rewatching and enjoying the content that we have. Maybe for me, not anytime soon because I just marathoned it, but for others, there's still a lot to love about it. I mean, another aspect that I truly love is the hyper-dramatic classical music that is slathered over the structure of the show. I mean, just look at Leonard's middle name. Amadeus. Yeah, you think you can pass that one by us, Disney? Well, in true Disney, Little Einstein's Fantasia fashion, they frequently used emotionally evocative classical pieces, like George Friedrich Handel's Water Music and Flower Duet from the first act of Leo Delibes' opera, Lakme. Frasier would be so proud of me. There were also a few flash games as well to accompany the show, Thrash Can, Food Fight, and Guess It, that Disney released, which could be fun to enjoy if you're really missing the show. But what are your thoughts about Teacher's Pet? Do you think it's something you would want to rewatch on its own? Share your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments.
Wait, remember Milo Murphy's Law? It was a Disney Channel cartoon from the people that brought you Phineas and Ferb, as we follow the character of Milo Murphy and all the bad luck that he must endure thanks to being a descendant of Edward Murphy Jr., the person behind Murphy's Law, aka the anything that can go wrong will go wrong guy. But this doesn't stop Milo from looking on the bright side and getting through these moments thrown his way. Along with his trusty mystery box backpack, Milo is always ready to face any challenge the universe gives to him. It's unfortunate though that Milo Murphy's Law feels like it went under the radar for the most part, and partially for no fault of its own other than being the follow-up show to Phineas and Ferb once that came to an end, and I guess it's now coming back. But with the wild success of that show, it's hard to be the follow-up show, regardless of any relation to it or not. So today, let's take a look into Milo Murphy's Law, get a familiarity to what it was all about, and see how it truly is based on its own merits. Now, the character of Milo is a fictional relative of Edward Murphy Jr., but this does offer a fun in concept character that is cursed by the harsh and cruel reality of things always going wrong. But his avoidance of just being the victim of these problems isn't what makes Milo interesting. It's his upbeat and charismatic attitude towards it all that becomes the infectious selling point. The show itself flows as a slice of life series that follows Milo along with his two friends Melissa and Zach that have to handle any situation they find themselves in thanks to the whole Murphy's Law thing. Fairly simple premise to follow, and it even comes with a sense of what came before it thanks to the inclusion of Milo's dog, Diogi. Well, not exactly like this platypus. Oh, Perry the platypus! Sorry, couldn't tell there for a second. Diogi is a faithful protector of Milo more often than not, living the life of a dog and doing his own thing, but can just pop up out of nowhere to help Milo in different situations, before being told to, head back home. With this being the creation of both Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, there is a lot of what makes Phineas and Ferb a well-beloved show found here as well. While Milo Murphy's Law does have its clear own identity away from what came before it, there are plenty of similarities. For one, the show falls in the same world as Phineas and Ferb does, and I'll bring more up about that later on, but when Phineas and Ferb ended its first initial run in 2015, it would only be a year later on October 3rd, 2016 that Milo Murphy's Law would premiere. There should be this easy excitement off the bat coming from the base knowledge of its creators and it coming so soon after the other show. But instead of being a main Disney Channel staple, it instead premiered on the other channel, Disney XD. Another point that we'll wrap around back to. The setup for the episode should feel very opening, in that there isn't much going on in a single episode than the build up from a simple day to some sort of wild, crazy, or weird mess to somehow solve. For the most part. The series later on does tend to break that mold somewhat. Milo as a character is easy to like. His attitude, his relationship to his friends, and how lucky he is in overcoming his unluckiness. He is voiced by the talented musician and comedian Weird Al Yankovic. So while he does deliver a good voice acting performance, the big reason to have him on board is the signature trait from Dan and Swampy, and that's the music. Much like Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law has a solid focus on adding in these moments where the show breaks into a musical number. So to have Weird Al on board surely isn't a bad thing. Not only just having talent when it comes to making music, but making catchy comedy-based music. Seems like a perfect match. And honestly, it was. From the opening theme song to the many musical numbers, Weird Al made a great effort to help make these performances pop. In addition to that, so did the supporting cast, especially when you have Melissa, one of Milo's best friends in the show, being voiced by Sabrina Carpenter. If that name rings a bell, she's an actress from the Disney camp of content from stuff like Girl Meets World and the remake of Adventures in Babysitting, and oh yeah, she's also a massive musical artist, even more so in modern day, even getting to perform as the opener for Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour. So when it comes to having the musical talent locked in, it was there. Milo's other best friend Zach does a great job in all aspects as well, voiced by Mackay Curtis, another person within the Disney world of content from being in Kirby Buckets and beyond that, being in the show Power Book 3. While I wouldn't say between the main trio friend group here that there is enough interesting to make them each stand out from the tropes we see in every group dynamic like this, I will say that all three of them feel pretty genuine and play their roles well for how they fit into the equation. Like I said, Milo is a very likable character on his own, maintaining a cheery personality while having to deal with being extremely unlucky. People are attracted to his orbit thanks to the person he is, but at the same time tend to keep a bit of distance as to not include themselves in on his bad luck.
You're watching Milo Murphy's Law. We'll be right back. You're watching Milo Murphy's Law. Now, back to the show.
Now, Milo isn't unaware of dealing with Murphy's Law literally being a part of his life. In fact, he embraces it for what it is and sees it as a way more exciting way to experience life. When stuff does go wrong in the world around him, his reactions aren't to freak out or to be scared by them, but to face them head on, having an endless supply of, well, supplies to help out in these moments. His trusty backpack is seemingly the one-stop shop for any problem, which could come off as this overpowered and easy solution to things, but it's used in a way that really helps bolster Milo's upbeat confidence. It represents those emotions, being the difference between staying calm and finding a way to fix the problem, or feeling anxious and unsure of what to do. This essentially magical backpack was given to Milo from a character named Veronica that used to babysit Milo while he was growing up. Having to directly deal with him him and his Murphy's Law curse. She originally carried the backpack that had anything you can think of to combat whatever gets thrown their way, but as he got older and no longer needed a babysitter, she passed down her backpack to him, as he holds onto it tightly to feel safe and confident to face the world, and to feel that comfort and protection that Veronica used to provide. It's genuinely really sweet. But when having these Murphy's Law problems follow you around, Milo is able to understand when other people may not want him around, knowing what his presence could cause. It still hurts sometimes, but he knows why others can feel this way, and he doesn't want to bring these problems to them. He sees the best intentions in people, even to those who aren't particularly a great person to him. That brings us to his friends, who offer a level of support that no one else aside from Veronica has ever really shown him. First, let's look at Melissa. She's smart and confident, but definitely a little forgetful when it comes to her own stuff. She's fiercely loyal and supportive of Milo in any situation, from becoming his first real friend in their earlier school years, all the way to where we see them in the show now. She sticks up for him when he won't speak up for himself to those who are being mean to him, but she also boosts him up for him to feel good and to feel that he's not just being protected by another person. She would even try and find a cure to help Milo with Murphy's Law, but understands that he doesn't want that. He isn't looking for it to go away, so in respecting that, she sticks by him through thick and thin. No matter what Murphy's Law drops on them, she is there to face it with him. Milo's other best friend, Zach, is a cool person with an interesting past that he rather hide. He's the newer kid in town, finding enjoyment in befriending Milo based on the wild rides that Murphy's Law causes them to go on. He offers Milo, and by extension Melissa, certain perspectives on what is going on, trying to come off as the voice of reason in plenty of the different circumstances. His attitude for what else could go wrong or there's no way things could get worse provides some funny moments and a bit of jinxing thanks to Murphy's Law being Murphy's Law. Most times, it will always get worse in some way. His past revolves around him being a part of this boy band called the Lumberjacks. Fresh flannel looks aside, he left his band over a girl that came between him and the other band members, causing him to lead the band while the band went on with a new name, with Zach no longer being the leader of the group. He's conflicted at the knowledge of others knowing him from being in the band. He worries and overthinks so much about his life and the things that are in his life, and in doing so, it initially drove him away from Milo, but that didn't last long, as the good person Milo is truly broke through the worries Zach has about Milo's luck. When it comes to Melissa, however, the two of them become a lot closer just in being friends with Milo. Sure, they can operate as exact opposites in the way they deal with and feel about Milo's situation, but this also brings them together and helps them find a nice bond that over time may be leading to something more. Overall, the group here, while playing into these standard tropes, all fill out the roles nicely, and their interactions with each other are genuinely enjoyable to watch and follow with how they progress throughout the series. Murphy's Law is represented in the show as this condition that Milo has, where it can more properly be explained in universe as extreme hereditary Murphy's Law, as Milo's father has the condition as well, with it apparently only affecting the men in the family lineage, as Milo's sister Sarah doesn't have to worry about it for herself. I just really like Milo's home life in general, as him and his dad get to bond over living with Murphy's Law, as his dad can help mentor him through some of the struggles based on his own past with them. Milo and his mom are really close as well, as she will always be there for him with something to take to heart, as well as some guiding words, building him into the kind person that he is, as well as building the confidence in himself. And even with his sister, we see that when things do go wrong when they hang out, that she still cares deeply for her younger brother, and looks past his situation, and tie that all together with a loyal dog bow, and you have a wholesome little family dynamic here. Extended beyond this, we do see the family life of both Melissa and Zach, fleshing out these characters greatly. Milo's school life plays a big factor into the show, as we get to see how other students and even school faculty interact and deal with Milo. He has a crush on one of his fellow students named Amanda, as we see how he navigates trying to express his interest with his circumstances. And seeing how their characters develop alongside each other is a good look into the coming of age scenarios that they're placed in, leading her to have some feelings back towards Milo. There's also Mort, who is another semi-friend of Milo in the group, but definitely not as close as the three of them are. He sees things in a spiritual sense when it comes to Milo's situation, which contrasts heavily with his friend Bradley, who really doesn't like Milo. For a multitude of reasons, Bradley sees Milo as a nuisance and someone in his way, and more specifically on the latter when it comes to trying to win over Melissa, being jealous of her spending time with both Milo and Zach instead of giving him the time of day. All of this school drama leads to a lot of great laughs from their interactions, as well as how the school faculty is portrayed in the show. In fact, one of the funniest gags is when Mr. Blunt yells at the class to suffer and make art, slamming closed the classroom door, which is now this ultra-secure multiple lock-equipped heavy metal door, as the animation stays still, minus some blinking, and all we hear is the locks being done and undone a few times when Milo then breaks the fourth wall and says, "You're welcome, animators," referencing that the job to animate this gag would put less work on them, and that's pretty great.
You're welcome, animators!
Now, aside from all this, which would make a show feel pretty complete on its own, there is a whole other sci-fi element that features some self-inserts of the creators playing these odd side characters. Dan and Swampy play the roles of Vinny Dakota and Balthazar Cavendish, respectively. They are time travelers who worked for the Bureau of Time Travel and are now at the point in time where Milo's story is taking place. While these characters get involved with other interesting organizations, they operate as these background characters who go on pistachio-related missions, as sometimes Milo, with his Murphy's Law, get in the way of things, making Cavendish think that Milo is some sort of secret agent sent to stop his pistachio shenanigans. And now all this starts pretty small, it builds up into a large section of some side story throughout the first season of the show, kind of chipping away at the slice of life thing and giving this somewhat of a side story a lot more focus. Now, Cavendish is extremely bitter and mean towards Milo for all of the reasons of Murphy's Law getting in the way, but Milo never breaks away from being nice, even offering him help when having to deal with King Pistachion. And as a fan of pistachios, all of this is just making me hungry. From there, though, he sees Milo in a positive light, while Dakota has always seen Milo to not be their enemy in all of this pistachio business. The show for sure had its own brand of wackiness going on, from Murphy's Law to time-traveling pistachio dudes, but most importantly, the show had heart to it. It feels so wholesome while still delivering on the fun and laughs. The animation compared to Phineas and Ferb definitely shows how much more comfortable the animators are at delivering these larger action set pieces when the ridiculousness of Murphy's Law come out to play, blending in 3D aspects into the 2D world in a nice stylized, non-jarring way, and allowing its bright and colorful palette to shine, making the world feel as much of a character as the characters themselves do. And I think these subtle differences in animation compared to Phineas and Ferb represent why both shows work so well and look so good with their slight distinctive differences. The writing has a big emphasis on comedy, so while the cast deliver their lines greatly, the timing, pacing, and quality of jokes truly mesh together to create some genuinely funny moments. But here's the thing. Milo Murphy's Law ended its run on May 18th, 2019 after only 2 seasons, but why is this? The show seemed to have some high ratings, a pretty fun concept to play with, and a fully put together product that I believe came together quite well, so let's dig into all these reasons why.
We'll be right back. Now, back to the show.
So, canceled wouldn't be the right word here to describe the show stopping after 2 seasons. Give me a minute, I'll get to that. But in 2019, the show was technically over. Now we can look to where it was originally broadcast, and that was Disney XD. Disney's response to try and make a more appealing sister network to the Disney Channel that would be focused more on the younger male demographic, but quickly became much more like Nickelodeon's sister network, the Nicktoons Network, as it became a graveyard for shows, old and new, to not garner enough of an audience for the higher-ups to greenlight more. Simply put, Disney XD quickly became a death sentence to many shows. We can spend a lot of time on why Disney XD failed, but that's not what this video is about. Another aspect was the interest in the show in general. Were enough people into what it offered? As the show would come into its 2nd season, some people found it as the show not being trusted to bring people in on its own, thanks to the inclusion of bringing in backup from Phineas and Ferb. We literally start off the season with the entire crew from Phineas and Ferb making cameos to draw in those who love that show. But to top that off, some characters stuck around from there and became mainstays throughout the 2nd season. The biggest of them being Doofenshmirtz and this regular platypus. Oh, Perry the Platypus! Sorry. Again. as they continue on their previous roles from Phineas and Ferb and just get integrated into the story a bit. Major Monogram and Carl from the other series make appearances throughout the second season as well. While some saw this as a cool way to connect the shows further, there were a lot of fans who saw this as not letting Milo Murphy's Law grow on its own, at least feeling like it wasn't given the chance to. Others just tuned out with the show not being for them. At its core, the show is a simple setup as we see Milo and friends navigate their daily lives just with the twist of Murphy's Law adding in some problems. But like I mentioned, the introduction of these time travelers, their pistachio-related problems, and a somewhat progressing plot that builds throughout definitely made the show feel a bit too stuffed with ideas that don't exactly mean anything to what the core of the show is. Is it fine to explore other situations and combine them with what Milo already has going on? Sure, but the risk associated with that can push away those who are already invested and sold on the base concept, not really needing the show to toe the line of focus with this futuristic pistachio disaster setup. Was some of it fun? Did it deliver some good laughs? Yeah, I won't deny that it did, but I can see where it just became too much for what the show already was, that it feels unnecessary and in some cases overcomplicated. Come the second season, the side plots of the time travelers feel a bit better and feeling like there is a purpose for them to belong, but then we get into all this extra alien stuff that once again feels less of this need to be there. All of it doesn't add to or take away from Milo. His character rarely gets to grow, never starting at one point and ending at another. His character and understanding of things around him have for the most part stayed the same as when we first met him. Some relationships with friends and even a love interest do evolve, but not to a point where you feel we've truly gotten anywhere. A lot of this is subjective to the individual viewer, so while some liked a lot of this, there were those who didn't. The same goes for the music in the show. Some love it and some compare it to Phineas and Ferb, claiming the latter to be a lot more memorable. Part of that I feel comes down to the audience size between the shows in general, as I enjoyed the music here. But as always, to each their own. Differing opinions are always okay to have. It's another case of a show not garnering a larger audience. Some of that can really be blamed on Disney XD and the accessibility to that channel mixed with the marketing behind it all, and some can be blamed on people just not becoming a fan of the show for whatever reasons they had. It was also sad to see that when the Disney Plus film Phineas and Ferb the movie Candace Against the Universe came out, there was originally going to be a cameo that featured Milo in it, including Weird Al returning to voice the character, but this would end up on the cutting room floor from the final edit. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed what Milo Murphy's Law brought to the table. It's a charming, funny little show that has some cool connections to its predecessor, while still finding a way to be completely unique. I fully recommend giving it a shot, and there may be a good reason to go and stream it on Disney Plus, so check this out. While Dan and Swampy would go on to work on their latest show, Hamster and Gretel, they would also be given the chance to revive Phineas and Ferb, thanks to the fans' interest of rewatching the show or discovering it for the first time through Disney Plus. The ratings for Phineas and Ferb were still high. With all this work on their hands, there was still a little beacon of hope left for the fans of Milo Murphy's Law. Before it was announced that Phineas and Ferb would be coming back, Dan had mentioned that he and Swampy would love to make more Milo Murphy's Law, and that they were willing to work on more than one show at a time. With the announcement and the start of pre-production on Phineas and Ferb's revival, the time to work on 3 shows seems pretty unlikely, but still not out of the realm of possibility. For one, viewership numbers speak volumes, and according to Dan, if there seems to be a massive interest on Disney Plus from fans of Milo Murphy's Law rewatching the show or introducing it to new people, there is a chance that it could come back. It just all hinges on the viewership from Disney Plus. This reassures that the show isn't canceled, it's just not in current production. However, it could possibly stay in that state if Disney doesn't see that there is any interest for it. So who knows, maybe one day Milo, along with all of his bad luck, may just return for another handful of episodes. But would that be something you'd like to see? Would you want a season 3 of Milo Murphy's Law? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.